Chapter 1. Outside the Holy Soul Village. The sky was just beginning to brighten, and the white fog covered the various wooden houses in the village, which were not very tall. A little boy wearing simple hemp clothes slowly ran out of the foggy village entrance. He had wheat-colored skin, bright eyes, and even breathing. He ran unhurriedly toward the small hill in front of him. Halfway there, he suddenly remembered something. He stopped at the foot of the hill and looked at a huge rock. On top of the boulder, there was a little boy about the same size as him lying down. The little boy had delicate features and was very pleasing to the eye. However, at this moment, he had a lazy look on his face. He was lying on a huge rock with his legs crossed, and a strand of blue-silver grass, which could be found everywhere in the village, was chewing happily. "Big brother Phone, you wake up so early every day. Do you want to train with me today?" He smiled at the little boy on the huge rock. "Little third, go back, I'm still sleeping. Sleep a little longer. It's getting hotter and hotter. Wake me up when you're done." The little boy on the huge rock didn't open his eyes. He seemed to already know someone was coming, so he spoke lazily. "Big brother Phone, can you not call me Little Third?" "Little Third?" Tang Sen laughed bitterly. Big brother Feng's full name was Wang Feng. He was a few months older than Tang San and was famous for being lazy in the Holy Soul Village. Other 5- or 6-year-old boys at this age would get up early to train in preparation for awakening their martial souls. If not, they would get up early to plow the fields and do some farm work with their parents. But Big Brother Feng often had a hopeless expression on his face. He would lie down in the morning and do nothing. However, Big Brother Feng was very pitiful. When he was born, Grandpa Village Chief told him that his mother died in childbirth. Later, his father was too sad and fell ill from overwork. He died in less than a year. As a result, Grandpa Village Chief adopted Big Brother Feng. As the days passed, Big Brother Feng gradually understood that other than going to pay respects to his parents every year, he wouldn't be immersed in the grief of his parents' early death. Although he was lazy, Big Brother Feng was indeed very smart. Thinking of this, Tang Sen looked at the little boy lying on the huge rock with admiration. In the past few years, Big Brother Feng had used some unknown method to greatly increase the Holy Spirit Village's food and vegetable production. The originally barren Holy Spirit Village gradually became rich. Big Brother Feng also erected the pillar at the entrance of the village that Grandpa Village Chief said might be the handprint left behind by the legendary Soul Sage. He told his nickname that this was a handprint left behind by a Soul Sage. He even made up a bunch of stories and made them sound as if they were gods. He said that as long as they came to pay their respects to this handprint, they would have a chance to become a Soul Sage in the future. It attracted a lot of tourists from the surrounding villages. Even tourists from Notting City often came to the village to pay their respects. In less than 2 years, the originally remote and barren Holy Soul Village was turned into a small town. Even Dad said that Phone Brat was different from other people. He was smart and sensible. Everyone in the village liked him, but he was too lazy. Not Little 3. Wang Feng thought for a while. Then should I call him Big 3? Tang San was speechless. "Just call me Little 3. Big Brother Feng, I'm going to train now." With that, Tang San waved his hand and quickly climbed toward the small hill in the distance. Although he was small, his hands and feet were very agile. The small hill that was more than 100 meters high was like flat ground in front of him. In just a few minutes, he climbed to the top of the hill. As the saying goes, 3 parts of fate, 7 parts of hard work, 90 parts of a golden finger. As the protagonist of the Douluo continent, it's really different. Wang Feng had a sour expression as he looked at Tang San's clean and neat moves. How could this be the skill of a 6-year-old boy? Like himself, not to mention climbing up, he couldn't even run for a while. "We're all transmigrators. Little 3, you're the reincarnation of the strong," Wang Feng sighed. "I'm different. I'm the reincarnation of the weak. I'm a 21st century, dutiful otaku. How did I transmigrate to the world of the Douluo continent? Not only did I transmigrate, but I even transmigrated into the body of a supporting character. The golden finger didn't even give me one. How can I play this game?" Yes, Wang Feng was also a transmigrator, But compared to the protagonist Tang San, he was much worse. He didn't have a heaven-defying background, nor did he have a ding-ding system, nor did he have an awesome martial spirit, of course. Wang Feng was very eager, but he didn't have it. Therefore, Wang Feng had been idle for 6 years. He could only rely on the wisdom of his previous life to barely improve the Holy Soul Village, so that he and the villagers could live a little more comfortably. Not long later, the official storyline of the Douluo continent will begin. The tool, Su Yun Tao, should be arriving soon. If I were to awaken a side martial soul or a home martial soul, I might as well smash my head into tofu and die. Wang Feng chewed on the blue silver grass and looked at Tang San, who was breathing and practicing the mysterious heaven method and the purple demon eyes on the small hill. In his eyes, there was incomparable envy. Every day, he would sit on this huge rock and watch Tang San cultivate. He wanted to see if he could secretly learn a move or two. Unfortunately, he wasn't a genius and didn't have X-ray vision. After watching for more than a year, he didn't see anything. On the other hand, as he watched Tang San slowly become stronger, he was filled with jealousy and jealousy. In those Douluo novels I read in my previous life, if you casually become sworn brothers with Tang San, he would teach you all the Tang sect's secret techniques. What nonsense! Thinking of this, Wang Feng immediately cursed those hateful and stupid authors in his heart. This Tang San was not a 6-year-old child. His soul was a genius who fooled many of the Tang sect higher-ups, created the Tang sect's supreme hidden weapon, the Buddha's Fury Tang Lotus, and learned the Tang sect's highest internal strength, and the soul of an adult. Even his father, Tang Hao, didn't tell him about the mysterious heaven treasure record. When he was 6 years old, he hid it as the biggest secret. Why would he tell an outsider? He had just transmigrated to the Douluo continent. Even if he was his biological brother, Tang San might not pass it to him. I really want to go back. Sigh, I don't have a phone, no computer, no TikTok, and no games. I don't know if G2 or FPX1S9. I can't even F*King find the resources. Forget it, I can't F*King play anyway. Wang Feng sighed. For the past 6 years, he had always wanted to go back. If he had to cheat, Wang Feng felt that he would definitely have lofty ambitions. He would roam the 4 seas of the Douluo continent, fight fierce battles, marry a few beautiful girls, create a brilliant reputation, and leave behind a legendary story. No, forget it. I'll just be a salted fish. After a while, as the sun rose in the sky, endless purple light sprinkled on the ground as if a layer of bright clothes was draped over it. Wang Feng also felt a faint warmth. Lil, Sin should be done with his cultivation soon, right? Just as Wang Feng finished muttering, he saw Tang San walking down from the small hill in high spirits. Brother Feng, why are you still holding the blue silver grass in your mouth? Tang San looked at Wang Feng, who was still lying on the huge rock and basking in the rising sun, and said helplessly, What, you still look down on the blue silver grass? Wang Feng chewed a few times. After all, this is the most ordinary grass. Tang San said seriously. However, although it is an ordinary grass, its vitality is also the most vigorous and tenacious. At this point, the blue silver grass is not ordinary. I don't mean to look down on it. Hearing these words, Wang Feng looked at Tang San with a dumbfounded expression. As expected of the protagonist, he was different from the other brats. He could even say such profound words. That's right, so I've decided. Lil San, your martial spirit will be the blue silver grass from now on. Wang Feng said lazily. Brother Feng, you're too mean. Tang San laughed bitterly. You're cursing me. After all, this was the most ordinary grass. Tang San still hoped that his martial spirit would be a little better. However, the martial spirit will only appear after it is awakened. Brother Feng, what you said doesn't count. Tang San smiled and left. He didn't forget to turn around and say, Brother Feng, remember to go back to the village for dinner. Wang Feng silently watched Tang San leave and sighed faintly. For a moment, his heart felt sour. It was also at this time. Ding, Douluo storyline has officially begun. Congratulations to the host for the first time. You have obtained an item. Meteoric Tear. Note, the item will be delivered to the host side in the real world. It is estimated to arrive tonight. Please check. The next time you check in, Holy Spirit Village, Martial Spirit Palace. If you can reach the innate full soul force, you will trigger an additional mysterious martial spirit. Hope the host can work hard to improve. Boom! As this voice sounded in his mind, Wang Feng jumped up from the huge rock like a cat with its hair standing on end. His face was flushed with excitement. Chapter 2. Wang Feng directly jumped up from the boulder. Auxiliary check-in system? I knew it. The golden finger may be late, but it will never be absent. Meteoric Tear. Isn't this the golden finger of the protagonist in Stellar Transformation? For the first time in 6 years, Wang Feng was so excited. As a small otaku, all kinds of anime and novels were naturally not a problem. Stellar Transformation was also a very famous novel. The golden finger of the protagonist Qin Yu was the meteoric tear, which was the legendary condensed energy of the goddess of life before she died. In the early stage, it could greatly increase the absorption speed of the world's elemental energy and also has a very strong recovery ability. The protagonist Qin Yu relied on this thing in the early stage to break the limits of the human body again and become more and more powerful. And as he became stronger, he could slowly develop more abilities. With this thing, even if I don't know the secret skills in Tang San's mysterious sky treasure record, as long as I exceed the limit again and again, my body will become incomparably strong. After the excitement, Wang Feng quickly calmed down and began to think. Since he had the golden finger, he couldn't be lazy for the time being. With the hope of becoming stronger, Wang Feng was full of motivation. He felt that his body was full of power and the future seemed to be bright. So, Wang Feng continued to lie on the boulder, turned over, and thought again with the blue silver grass in his mouth. The auxiliary check-in system said that the meteoric tear will only arrive at night. It's useless to be anxious now. Let me think about how to train first. Wang Feng suddenly felt a little lucky. When he was on Earth, he watched a lot of various training videos, such as Abdominal Ripper, Russian Straighten, Special Forces Devil Training. He often watched excitedly tossed and turned in his bed. Then, he threw them into the collection folder to eat dust. Train? Doesn't exist. That thing, when practiced, was simply deadly. Without a few years of hard work, don't even think about having any achievements. If one is not careful, it is easy to have a problem. With the meteoric tear, it is different. The effect and time are greatly reduced, and absolutely no problems will occur. According to the time Grandpa Jack said, Brother Tao should come to the Martial Spirit Hall of the Holy Spirit Village in a month for the awakening ceremony. Wang Feng thought to himself, if I can clock in at the Martial Spirit Palace in the Saint Spirit Village, I can get an extra reward. That is to say, I need to reach the innate full soul power within a month. Just like Xiao Xin. However, Little 3 has been cultivating for quite a few years. It was only during the awakening ceremony that he awakened with his innate full soul power 1 month. It seems like I have to stop eating and drinking. While thinking, Wang Feng took some time to return to the Holy Spirit Village for a meal and then hurried out again. Until nighttime. Night fell and a cool breeze blew. Wang Feng looked at the starry sky and waited quietly on a high platform outside a small forest. The meteoric tear should fall as a meteor, right? Wang Feng stared at the night sky. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared, cutting through the pitch-black sky. A meteor streaked across the distant horizon towards Wang Feng's position. He's here. Wang Feng's eyes widened as he stared at the meteor that was heading straight for him. F***CK. Don't tell me it's going to smash me to death. Am I going to be the first person to be smashed to death by a Goldfinger? However, Wang Feng thought too much. The beam of light directly penetrated his heart, and a series of light patterns appeared on his chest. It was beautiful, like a blooming sunflower. Wang Feng felt his heart thumping a few times. He could vaguely feel a surge of power. My heart, could it be that it has merged with the meteoric tear? Wang Feng looked at his glowing heart and thought to himself, Don't tell me it's turned into a nuclear reactor? With that thought, Wang Fengxin's mind trembled. He ran forward like crazy, trying to see if his body had changed. However, after running for a while, Wang Feng felt his legs go numb, and he began to feel dizzy. My body didn't become stronger. It seems that I need to reach a certain limit to activate the power of the meteoric tear. Wang Feng gritted his teeth. The path in this small forest was bumpy, and it was far more tiring to run than normal roads. His 6-year-old body could only run for more than 10 minutes. Wang Feng felt a little suffocated, and he couldn't breathe at all. This Goldfinger can't be fake, right? Wang Feng felt that with every step he took, there was another will in his mind, tempting him, as if saying, "Stop. If you keep running, you will die. Don't persist. It's useless. Get lost. I want to become stronger. I want girls. I want martial soul. I want innate full soul power. I want to act cool. Don't try to bewitch me." Wang Fengxin roared loudly. "I have a Goldfinger. If I can't persist, I am really a useless piece of iron." While roaring his heart, Wang Feng continued to run. It was as if he wanted to vent his unwillingness to be mediocre for more than 20 years in his previous life, as well as the few baskets of lemons that happened to be Tang San after transmigrating to the Douluo continent. Wang Feng's pace became slower and slower. His legs began to tremble, his face was red, and his pupils began to dilate. This was a sign of exhaustion. At this time, he had been running for nearly an hour. This was almost the limit of a 6-year-old body that had not exercised before. Large beads of sweat flowed all over his body, soaking his clothes. His short hair looked like it had just been washed. Wang Feng felt that his consciousness was blurred. I really used up the will of my 2 lifetimes. No, I can't stop. Wang Feng's consciousness was a little blurred. He didn't know how long he had been running. It should be almost 2 hours. He felt that he had reached his limit. In this state, his vision was already blurred. Boom. Wang Feng's sluggish feet directly tripped on a stone, and he fell to the ground. As soon as he fell, Wang Feng felt endless exhaustion, like a tide, surging from all directions. His body didn't feel like it was his anymore. In this extreme state, Wang Feng felt like he was in close contact with the Grim Reaper. In fact, it was easy for a little boy without any training to suffocate and die of fatigue when suddenly running at such a high intensity. However, it was also at this time that a gentle energy slowly spread from Wang Fengxin's heart to all parts of his body. That feeling was 10,000 times more comfortable than soaking in a hot spring. The muscles, joints, and other parts of his body that were worn out due to the sudden high-intensity exercise began to rapidly recover. It was like being reborn from the fire. Under the cleansing of this energy, even his cells seemed to have been reborn and become full of vitality. "This is too good," Wang Feng almost shouted out loud. It was really as good as how uncomfortable he was just now. Moreover, he could almost personally experience the feeling of every part of his body becoming stronger under the cleansing of the energy overflowing from the meteoric tear. 10 minutes later, Wang Feng opened his eyes. His 4 limbs suddenly exerted force, and he directly propped himself up. After the body surpasses the limit, it becomes stronger. This meteoric tear is indeed very powerful. Even if I don't know any cultivation technique, it is enough to make me stronger. Wang Feng rubbed his fists and palms, feeling that he was becoming stronger. It's not enough. There seems to be a faint energy flowing in my body. Could it be that it is automatically absorbed? Wang Feng touched his lower abdomen. He felt that there was a ball of warm current. It was flowing along his whole body, and it was the kind that was fully automatic. Right now, I feel that I should be able to knock down a 7 or 8-year-old child with one punch. This is only 2 hours of training. Wang Feng clenched his fist, full of excitement. However, as I become stronger, it will be harder to surpass the limit of the body. This warm current should be the key to the innate full soul force. Could it be the soul force? Whatever, I will continue to train. I will continue to surpass the limit. In the small forest, there was another sound of breathing. The next morning, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Tang San had already finished washing up. He controlled his breathing all the way and ran out of the village gate calmly. Looking at the familiar hill in the distance, Tang San smiled slightly. His gaze fell on a huge rock not far away, and he was stunned. Where's Brother Feng? Tang San was surprised. Usually, at this time, he could see Brother Feng lying on the huge rock almost every day, like a fish that was fished up and dried in the sun. There was also a strand of blue silvergrass in his mouth. Why, today he was missing. What the hell? Tang San thought to himself. He looked around. Suddenly, Tang San saw a familiar figure in the small forest in front of him. The figure was leaning on a tree trunk, still holding a strand of blue silvergrass in his mouth. His eyes were narrowed, and he looked relaxed. Brother Feng, why did you change your posture today? Tang San walked over and asked curiously. The uneven marks on the huge rock should have been laid flat by you. You shouldn't have been lying there, right? Wang Feng raised his head, opened his eyes, and looked at Tang San. Suddenly, at this moment, Tang San felt that this Brother Feng was a little different. He couldn't say it. Although Brother Feng's eyes were still lazy, there was a hint of sharpness in them. It was like his father, who was lazy all year round, but when he was forging, he would occasionally reveal a trace of a sharp gaze. It made Tang San feel shocked. It even gave him a small sense of oppression, and even his body seemed to have grown a little taller. Little San, people have to go higher. Brother Feng, it's time for me to move. Wang Feng said indifferently. After a night of training, when the sun was about to rise, he finally surpassed his limits for the second time. Once again, his body was cleansed by the energy overflowing from the meteoric tear. I become stronger. Then, do you want to train with me today? Tang San smiled and pointed at the small hill in front of them. But Brother Feng, you haven't trained for a long time. You should start with the basic jogging. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly patted Tang San's shoulder heavily. His voice was a little low. Little San, actually, Brother Feng didn't tell you in the past few years. I've conquered that small hill a long time ago. Hearing this, Tang San was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh in his heart. My ass. Brother Feng, you've been lying down there every day and watching me train for the past few years. Have you conquered the air? That small hill is at least 100 meters high. It's incomparably rugged. Even if you train with me every day, you might not be able to climb it. Tang San knew that he cultivated the mysterious heaven method. His physical fitness had long surpassed that of his peers. That was why he could climb it so easily. After thinking for a while, Tang San said cautiously, Brother Feng, it's already morning. Big Brother Feng, it's already morning. Wang Feng, do you think I'm talking in my sleep? The corner of Wang Feng's mouth twitched. He smiled faintly and walked toward the small hill in an overbearing manner. Look carefully, little San. Your Brother Feng never brags. Wang Feng laughed loudly. His hands were like pliers as he grabbed the rocks on the mountain wall. With a kick, he quickly climbed up the small hill. Chapter 3. It was incredible. In Tang San's eyes, Big Brother Feng's tiny figure was climbing up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although Big Brother Feng's speed was much slower than his current strength was almost the same as an adult's. When did Big Brother Feng become so powerful? Tang San's head was full of question marks. Also, it's obviously not Big Brother Feng's first time climbing this hill. He's not familiar with the edges and corners of this 100-meter-tall hill. He doesn't have the inexperience of climbing it for the first time. Every rock he steps on seems to have been calculated. It's even simpler and more convenient than my usual climbing route. His speed of climbing was slower than his, but the time he spent climbing was shorter than his. He's amazing. Could it be that he's been climbing this hill for many years? Tang San thought to himself as he opened his mouth. He was also a genius, but at this moment, seeing Big Brother Feng climb up so quickly, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. In the past, he relied on his excellent physical fitness and never thought about how to save time climbing a hill. With Big Brother Feng's climbing route, I can save more time and energy than usual. Tang San looked at the figure standing at the top of the hill with admiration. He, who cultivated the purple demon eyes, could clearly see Big Brother Feng standing at the top of the hill. His face was not red, and he was not angry. His breathing was long. His physical fitness was also excellent. But I've never seen Big Brother Feng climb this hill. I've never even seen him train. Tang San was a little puzzled. None of the other children his age could climb this hill. Even if they could run up, most of them would lie on the ground and not want to move. Big Brother Feng's body could be blown by a gust of wind. Could it be that Big Brother Feng's talent is extraordinary? Did he really conquer this hill a long time ago? Tang Sin pondered. However, no matter what he thought, he didn't think that it was actually the result of Wang Feng's training last night. In order to show off, Wang Feng had even climbed this hill in advance. In addition, he had been watching Tang San train all these years, so he remembered this hill clearly. Now that his body had surpassed its limits, under the effects of the meteoric tear, not only had his physical constitution changed, even his memory had become stronger. Naturally, he was able to achieve the effect he had today. He used the most energy-efficient route to quickly climb to the top of the mountain. He was so agile and experienced that it seemed like he had been climbing for many years. After all, climbing the mountain using a scientific route. Big Brother Feng, what are you doing? After a while, Tang San saw Big Bro Feng doing all kinds of strange actions on a mountaintop. From time to time, he would raise a finger to support himself on the ground, lay flat on the ground, and then propped himself up again. Sometimes it was as if he was sitting in the air. His body sank, and his calves and thighs were at a 90-degree angle. Sometimes he would stand upside down with his hands raised high, and then he would quickly press his fingers flat against the ground, repeating the cycle. The more he looked, the more shocked Tang San was. It was because these actions seemed simple, but in reality, they were extremely taxing on the body. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Tang San saw Big Brother Feng perform those strange movements in groups of over 100. If I didn't use the mysterious heaven skill, I wouldn't be much stronger than Big Bro Feng. Tang San gasped in amazement as he watched. These movements have a very strong training effect. On the mountain, Wang Fengxin was secretly laughing. Little Third's shocked gaze was naturally noticed by him. Little guy, although you're also a transmigrator, you're not a modern transmigrator. My explosive push-ups, burpees that train all the muscles in the body, and the enhanced squats that all men must do. Won't they blind your eyes? Wang Fengxin was secretly laughing. After all, these were all kinds of training methods that had been tempered in the modern world. Naturally, those who understood would understand. If it was in the past, Wang Feng could only watch those masters in the videos enviously. They could control their bodies in all kinds of fancy ways. Now he could almost reach that level in just one night. Although this was only the body of a 6-year-old child, Wang Feng had never felt this kind of sense of accomplishment before. The Goldfinger is awesome, Wang Feng laughed softly. However, as my body becomes stronger, it will be harder to surpass my body's limits. But every time I surpass it, my body will be cleansed and tempered by the energy overflowing from the meteoric tear. In the future, I will have to use all kinds of methods to increase my training. Wang Feng was able to surpass his body's limits twice in one night because his body was very weak before. He couldn't hold on for long before he reached his limit. However, after these two changes, his body became much stronger. If he wanted to surpass his body's limits again and reach the point where his willpower was on the verge of collapse and his body was in pain, it would be even more difficult. At this time, Tang San also climbed up and looked at Wang Feng with admiration. Wang Feng's arms were already showing the outline of his muscles. With a light push, he stood up steadily. Little Three? What do you mean? Wang Feng smiled faintly. Amazing, Tang San said sincerely. I misjudged you. So, Big Bro Feng, you didn't lie on the boulder and bask in the sun every day because you were lazy. I think it's because you don't want to exercise normally, right? Wang Feng coughed a few times. That's not it. At that time, I was really a salted fish. However, Tang San really admired Big Bro Feng. Big Bro Feng didn't cultivate any cultivation method. He could train to this point just by exercising. Both perseverance and talent were indispensable. What I admire the most is the route Big Bro Feng used to climb the mountain. It's something I've never thought of in so many years. Tang San felt a little ashamed. It's okay. Wang Feng patted Tang San's shoulder. Have you learned it? Tang San nodded. It's good that you've learned it. Wang Feng suddenly changed the topic and said with a smile, Little 3, your martial soul will awaken in less than a month. Grandpa Jack should have told you about it, right? I know. Grandpa Jack occasionally mentioned it to me, but Dad seemed to be very resistant to it. I didn't dare to mention it, Tang San whispered. Well, let's have a fight in a month, Wang Feng said in a deep voice. A fight? Tang San looked at Big Bro Feng in surprise. Suddenly, Wang Feng looked at the sky with a deep expression and said in a voice full of vicissitudes, To tell you the truth, based on my observation in the Holy Spirit village these years, I found that only you, Little 3, can compete with me. The other children of the same age are too weak. Sometimes I feel that I'm too strong. I'm very lonely. Do you know? Tang Sen looked at Wang Feng speechlessly. However, he knew that Big Bro Feng was smart and liked to talk nonsense sometimes. He also liked to brag. Therefore, he didn't find Big Bro Feng's tone strange. So, let's have a fight when the time comes. Wang Feng laughed. Okay, Tang Sen nodded and said seriously, but, Big Bro Feng, you can't beat me. Don't worry, I won't let you be too lonely. Tang Sen was very clear about his current strength. He had learned all the skills in the Mysterious Heaven Treasure Record and even mastered the first stage of the Mysterious Heaven Method, not to mention one Big Bro Feng. Even if there were 10 Big Bro Fengs, they should be able to beat him. It was undeniable that Big Bro Feng's physical fitness was very good, but it was only good. Okay, then it's settled. Wang Feng laughed mischievously and then climbed down the mountain. Tang Sen shook his head. 1 month was like beating him who had cultivated for several years. Big Bro Feng, this is what you asked for. Don't worry, Little 3. When the time comes, I'll prepare all kinds of ointment for you in advance to repay you for these 2 years. You've made the Holy Spirit village better and better. You've made Dad and me eat better and live better and better. If I can defeat Little 3 in a month, I should also have innate full soul power, right? Wang Feng thought to himself as he ran down the mountain. In order to ensure that he could use innate full soul power the second time, he checked, and Wang Feng didn't know how strong he was. Was he satisfied with innate full soul power? That was why he asked for this. As long as he could train until he could defeat Tang San, it was reasonable to say that he should also have innate full soul power, right? There was nothing wrong with this logic, right? With this goal in mind, Wang Feng continued to train like crazy. Chapter 4. Outside the Holy Soul Village. In a dense forest. Quiet, very quiet. A bird was on a tree that was more than 10 meters tall. It gently flapped its wings and pecked at the insects in the branches. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure flashed past, but it only caused a gentle gust of wind. The bird did not notice it and continued flapping its wings. In the next moment, a 2 to 3 meter long striped snake suddenly appeared behind the tree trunk. It silently stared at the bird. In the distance, in the nest, a few young birds chirped at the bird. However, the bird thought that it was just the young birds that were hungry. It walked a few steps to the nest and fed the insects in its mouth to the young birds. At this moment, hiss! Suddenly, the striped snake at the back opened its bloody mouth and bit at the bird. It was extremely fast. The bird in front of it was about to be swallowed by the striped snake. The young birds in the nest chirped loudly, as if to remind the mother bird. However, it was already too late when the mother bird noticed, at this moment of crisis, whoosh! A powerful gust of wind suddenly blew past. The striped snake was suddenly startled. At some point in time, a boy had appeared out of nowhere and grabbed its vital spot. It did not even have time to react. Little thing. The boy grabbed the striped snake and grinned. The sunlight shone through the gaps in the leaves and landed on the boy's smiling face. It illuminated his fair face and made him look extremely handsome. The boy was bare-chested, revealing a rather strong body. Although he was only about 1.2 meters tall, he already gave people a feeling of extreme strength. The striped snake was pinched at its weak spot. Its head shook in all directions. Suddenly, it turned its head strangely and directly bit the boy's arm. Yo, you're quite stubborn. It seems that today's breakfast is you. Should I roast it or stew it? The boy pinched his chin and said as if he did not care about the striped snake at all. Crack! The striped snake opened its two sharp teeth and was about to bite the boy's arm. However, bang! The two sharp, venomous fangs seemed to have bitten into a piece of rock, and they were immediately crushed. As for the boy's skin, there were only two concave marks. There were no scars at all. The striped snake was speechless. If you were a big python, you might be able to bite me. Look at your small body. You can't even live for more than 3 seconds in my stomach, and you want to bite me? Wang Feng looked at this ordinary striped snake with disdain. It had been more than 20 days since the date he had agreed to meet with his mistress. In these 20 days of bitter training, Wang Feng had reached his body's limit 4 times. Every time he improved, it was abnormally huge. At the very least, Wang Feng could feel that even if an adult was in front of him, he could easily knock them down with a single punch. After all, he was only 6 years old. However, the more he trained, the harder it was to surpass his body's limits. The most recent time was 6 days ago. The most frightening thing was that other than the increase in physical fitness, there was also the increase in physical strength. Wang Feng felt that his skin and even his muscles were abnormally firm. A slightly blunt knife would not even be able to cut through his skin. For example, the venomous fangs of this striped snake were considered very sharp, but it could only leave 2 dents. In terms of pure strength, I should be 2 times stronger than an adult male. But my body's weight is very low. The density of my muscles and the feeling of strength are very strong, causing my speed to be very fast. Wang Feng muttered to himself. In these 20 days, the biggest improvement is the increase in the intensity of the training and the control of my body. It is getting stronger. Just by looking at the data, Wang Feng could carry a 30-gene stone and do 200 squats continuously without a drop of sweat. He could continuously do 200 burpees, which were claimed to be able to train the whole body's muscles without any effort. One must know that for burpees, even a special forces soldier with high physical fitness would find it difficult to do 200 burpees continuously. His strength was 2 times stronger than an adult male, and his endurance was terrifying, and he also had unparalleled speed. These were the results of his 20 days of training. If it was in his previous life, he might not be able to achieve this result even after 10 years. Because Wang Feng was only 6 years old. There's also this warm current in my body. Wang Feng scratched his head. I don't know how to use it. This should be the key to the innate full soul power, right? I don't know how strong I am compared to Tang San. I will know when I fight. At this time, the bird ran to Wang Feng's feet and pecked a few times. Chirp, chirp, little guy, be careful. Let's go. Wang Feng glanced at the bird and lightly stepped on the ground. His whole body turned into a phantom and disappeared in an instant, appearing on a tree branch in the distance. Then, Wang Feng stepped on the ground again and accurately landed on the tree branch in front of him. His posture was elegant and graceful. Not long after, Wang Feng skinned and deboned the striped snake in his hands and roasted it delightfully. Just treat it as a morning snack. Wang Feng burped and then continued his training for the day. Oh, Little San, that guy these days, he should have learned the disorder-splitting wind hammer technique from his father, right? If I just train like this, it will be difficult to surpass the limits of my current physical body. I don't need to learn the disorder-splitting wind hammer technique, but I can use forging to train. While thinking, Wang Feng first ran 100 laps around the small forest. When his body felt a little warm, he quietly ran back to the Holy Soul Village. I remember that in the original work, Tang How liked to sleep in the morning. Wang Feng quietly went to Little San's blacksmith shop. At this time, the Holy Soul Village was quiet. Most people had not woken up yet, and Little San should have just gone out to train. Walking into Tang Hao's blacksmith shop, Wang Feng had been here many times and was familiar with the place. He looked at the iron hammer. The iron hammer was a few centimeters taller than his entire body. Wang Feng gently held the iron hammer. So heavy, Wang Feng slightly gasped. It's at least 70 to 80 kilograms. Even an adult might not be able to swing it. This Tang Hao is indeed worthy of being the former Vaskai Da. However, this is nothing to me. Wang Feng used one hand to directly hold the iron hammer. After weighing it a few times, he felt that it was quite comfortable. Usually, it was not enough for him to train with rocks that weighed 20 to 30 kilograms. However, it was not convenient for him to train with rocks that were too big. After all, he was only 6 years old. The iron hammer was also very big, but it was very comfortable to use. Then Wang Feng looked at a huge chunk of ore. Uncle Hao, let me borrow your iron hammer. Wang Feng chuckled, took another chunk of ore, and walked out of the blacksmith shop. Of course, he could not swing it in the blacksmith shop. If he woke Tang Hao up with Tang Hao's temper, he would definitely kick him out. However, Wang Feng did not know that right after he left in the inner room, Tang Hao opened his eyes. His cloudy eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. That kid, Lin Feng, can he lift my iron hammer and take away a chunk of, or what is he trying to do? Tang Hao stood up from the bed. With his vigilance, even if he was not as strong as before, how could he not notice a 6-year-old boy? With that thought, Tang Hao quietly walked out of the room and followed Wang Feng without anyone noticing. Not long after, they arrived at a remote and spacious area. Then, Tang Hao saw Wang Feng pick up his iron hammer and start to hit the chunk of ore. Clang! A crisp and melodious sound was heard. This kid's brain is pretty good, but his body is very weak. He hasn't come to visit me in the past few days. Why is he suddenly thinking of smithing? Tang Hao was curious, but he also found it quite interesting. He saw Wang Feng suddenly lift the 70 to 80 kilogram hammer and was immediately surprised. You can really swing it? Lil 3 was born with superhuman strength and can swing the hammer 100 times in a row. How can you lift it so far with your weak body? You'll probably fall to the ground after 1 or 2 swings, right? Even if you want to train, you don't know the severity of your actions. After thinking for a while, Tang Hao furrowed his brows. He planned to stop Wang Feng directly. After all, such a heavy hammer could easily injure a child's body if he was not careful when lifting it. Tang Hao usually did not care about the outside world. So even Tang Sin did not know that Wang Feng had been undergoing special training recently and had undergone earth-shattering changes. Naturally, Tang Hao did not know either. Chapter 5. Clang, clang, clang. Unhurried hammering sounds could be heard in Tang Hao's line of sight. The little boy, who was only half his height, picked up a giant hammer that was about the same height as him. He hammered the chunk of ore again and again. The speed was not fast. However, it was very steady. Toward the end, it was so steady that there was no change in the strength of each hammer strike. That was very terrifying. One had to know that it was very difficult to control the strength of each hammer strike when using a giant hammer to temper ore. Tang Hao was once a titled Dalu. Now that he was holed up in the Holy Spirit village and had been hammering iron for a few years, he naturally knew the difficulty. 10, 20, 30, 50. Tang Hao stood in the dark and counted every strike of Wang Feng's hammer. 50 strikes. It was hard to imagine that the usually lazy and clever Feng kid who liked to come to his house for a meal was kicked out by him. He had watched the kid grow up. He actually had innate strength that was comparable to Lil 3's. Even Tang Hao was extremely surprised by that. Moreover, that kid was probably more talented than Lil 3's. Even though Lil 3 was also intelligent, it was very difficult for him to control the strength of each hammer strike as exquisitely as Feng. The difference was huge. The further he hammered, the more so it became. If we talk about the first 10 strikes, Feng Kid had some problems with the strength when he swung the giant hammer, causing the strength to be uneven. However, from the 11th strike onwards, his control of the strength of each hammer strike is extremely precise. The more Tang Hao looked at it, the more surprised he became. That meant that the kid had unparalleled comprehension ability and control of every muscle in his body. That was why he could master the technique of hammering so quickly. Furthermore, He did it without anyone's guidance. Lil 3's comprehension ability is not bad, and his control of his body is not bad either. I didn't give him any guidance. However, after hammering for a day, he barely managed to learn how to control every inch of his body's strength. Even so, Lil 3's mastery is far from enough. He needs at least 10 days before he can see the initial results. Tang Hao's eyes sparkled. His gaze fell on Feng Kid's body. Tang Hao seemed to be able to see Wang Feng's heart. It was as though there was endless power within it. Streams of blood gushed out, as though they were the power of the origin. The soles of his feet seemed to be glued to the ground. The power gushing out of his heart seemed to have turned into a colorful energy body. It came from the ground, grew from his calves, and then flowed to his thighs. It flowed through his waist, back, arms, and finally gathered in the palm that was holding the giant hammer. Clang! It could be said to be a perfect strike, striking the raw iron. Loud a pleasant and perfect sound. I haven't taught Little 3 these techniques yet, because it's still too early for Little 3, who only knows how to swing a hammer. As for the disorder-splitting wind hammer technique, it's even earlier. It will take a few more days. Tang Hao muttered, I didn't expect that. This Feng brat actually comprehended these skills on his own? Genius? Tang Hao felt that he could not be described as a prodigy. If someone taught you, you would be able to pick it up quickly. This was intelligence. If someone taught them, they would be able to pick it up immediately. That would be a genius. But if no one taught him, and he comprehended it on his own, a genius among geniuses? He only swung the hammer 10 times, and he immediately comprehended the skills that I've accumulated over the years. Tang Hao looked at the tiny figure who was still diligently swinging the giant hammer. He suddenly felt a special feeling that he had not felt in a long time. Back then, he was also a genius, but now, Tang Hao felt a long-lost sense of disparity. It was very, very small, but he did not mind it. He soon got over it. However, it made him, who had been unperturbed and abnormally dispirited all these years, feel a little more special. Of course, Tang Hao did not know that. Wang Feng was able to comprehend these skills so quickly because he had the knowledge from his previous life. In other words, these skills were public knowledge on Earth, not to mention that he had seen the Douluo continent. As a transmigrator, in addition to the cheat given by the system, Wang Feng naturally had to use the advantages of a transmigrator. Otherwise, how could he be considered a transmigrator? Wang Feng did not want to embarrass the seniors of the transmigrators. Foresight, strong acceptance, unique knowledge, and a certain amount of knowledge were all the advantages of transmigrator. With the Goldfinger, these advantages would be maximized. Therefore, Wang Feng was only quickly familiarizing himself with these skills. He did not comprehend them himself. However, at that moment, he was completely focused on hammering the raw metal. He did not realize that his every move was being observed by Tang Hao. Naturally, he was regarded as a prodigy among prodigies. With every strike of the hammer, Wang Feng felt his body heat up. The amount of energy consumed by this strike was much greater than any of the previous training sessions. In addition, the recoil from a strike was also a huge burden on Wang Feng's body. 500 strikes in one go. That should be the limit. Wang Feng calmed his breathing. He knew that breathing was the most important thing in any training, although Wang Feng did not know any special breathing method. However, a steady and regular breathing would allow the training of each hammer strike to reach its maximum potential. His physical strength and endurance are also extraordinary. He has already hammered more than 100 times. His breathing is not chaotic at all. From this point alone, he has already surpassed Little San. Also, Little San can't hit with all his might with every strike and control his strength so exquisitely. The effect of this strike is equivalent to Little San's 10 strikes over the past few days. Tang Hao continued to count calmly. Little San had just started to learn how to swing the hammer. 100 strikes in one go was his limit. After that, he would rest for a while and continue hammering 100 times in one go. However, if Little San used all his strength for every strike like Little San, he would be exhausted after 50 or 60 strikes. It would be difficult for him to recover in a short period of time. 150 strikes in one go should be Little San's limit. Also, this method of hammering is very taxing on his body. He won't be able to recover fully even after half a day, Tang Hao observed. That was the truth. The more he hammered, the greater the exhaustion. Tang Hao's observation was very accurate. After 150 strikes, Wang Feng's breathing was still steady, but it was a little chaotic. His breathing was also uneven. Seeing that, Tang Hao nodded and left quietly. That Feng lad usually looks lazy, and it's as if his bones are about to fall apart. I didn't think that he would be so formidable. Whether it's his talent or his physique, he's so strong. The people in the village must have misjudged him. They thought that the kid was smart, but they didn't expect him to be so powerful, right? Tang Hao shook his head. He was not in the mood to tell the villagers about that. It was enough for him to keep it to himself. He couldn't even be bothered to care about his mistress, let alone Feng Brat. You'll stop hammering when you run out of energy. Then, you'll obediently bring back the hammer and a quarter of the finished ore, Tang Hao thought to himself. As for me, I'll go back and sleep for a while. According to Tang Hao's calculations, 150 strikes from Feng would be enough to refine a quarter of the ore. That was already very terrifying. Little San hammered for 10 days and barely managed to temper 2/3 of the ore. Little San could temper a quarter of the ore in one go. If he was given 3 or 4 days, he might be able to complete the refinement. That was too ridiculous. However, what Tang Hao did not know was that after he left, Wang Feng did not stop hammering as Tang Hao expected. Instead, he gritted his teeth and persevered. 150 strikes would only make his body feel tired, but the limit was much higher than that. If Tang Hao saw that, he would definitely stop him. If he continued hammering, he would reach the limit of what his body could withstand, and it would hurt his body. That was because when Wang Feng hammered on the ore, he would also feel a huge impact. Unfortunately, Tang Hao did not see that. He walked back to the village. He was quite far away from the remote area, and he could not hear any more hammering sounds. Clang, 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 clang. 500 strikes. After hammering the last strike, Wang Feng's body was extremely weak, and his consciousness began to fade. However, he had not surpassed his limit. Wang Feng looked at the ore that had shrunk a lot. There was no fire. Just his hammering alone was enough to turn it red. The meteoric tear is not emitting any energy. That means that I haven't surpassed my limit. Wang Feng gritted his teeth. He could feel that his body was weak. Limit. That was the limit. However, he wanted to surpass his limit. A beautiful girl, a powerful martial soul, and a gorgeous show-off. I have to persevere. Wang Feng's willpower allowed him to persevere. With that thought in mind, Wang Feng continued to swing his hammer and smashed it down. 600, 700, clang, clang. In the end, Wang Feng's consciousness was completely blurred. His body instinctively hammered the ore. He did not know how many times he had hammered the ore. However, it wasn't until that piece of raw iron was completely tempered that the iron was completely refined. Wang Feng collapsed. This time, he did not have a single drop of energy. No, he did not have a single shred of energy left. If Tang Hao was still there, his jaw would have dropped. That was because that 6-year-old boy had tempered an entire ore in one go. Boom! As Wang Feng collapsed on the ground, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. This was because a familiar warm current was slowly flowing out from his heart. The power of the meteoric tear. It meant that he had once again surpassed his body's limit. The next morning, during breakfast. At this time, Tang Hao slowly woke up and ate the breakfast that Tang San had already prepared. He noticed that Lil San was fiddling with medicinal herbs. Tang Hao was surprised. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Why are you fiddling with medicinal herbs, Lil San? Are you hurt?" Tang San shook his head and said carefully, "No, I'm not. No, Big Brother Feng and I agreed to fight today. I'm afraid that he'll get hurt, so I concocted some ointment for him." As a Tang sect disciple, He naturally knew how to concoct simple ointment. Tang Hao was silent when he heard that. He remembered the scene of Feng the day before when he swung the giant hammer. Feng the kid should be slightly stronger than Lil San. However, in a fight between children, it was hard to say who was stronger. Lil San was usually calm and collected. Feng the kid must have come up with the idea. Was he trying to test his skills? Tang Hao was a smart person. He could roughly guess the reason. However, he did not bother to ask. It was just a fight between children. Lil San had always been calm and obedient. There was no harm in a fight. Be careful, Tang Hao said calmly. Seeing that, Tang San sighed. If his father did not agree, it would be difficult for him. However, he still had to tell his father about it. I'll be going out first, father. Tang San put away the ointment and walked outside. Tang Hao nodded slightly. Not long after Tang San left, Tang Hao walked toward the furnace. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he saw a piece of fully tempered raw iron. Tang Hao's body trembled. He looked at the piece of fully tempered raw iron in disbelief. That piece of raw iron was the raw iron that he saw Wang Feng hammering and tempering yesterday. Tang Hao instinctively wanted to rush out of the room and pull Tang San back. However, after thinking about it, he decided against it. Never mind, Lil San prepared the ointment. I'll just treat it as if he prepared it for himself. Feng the kid is a freak. Chapter 6. Tang San walked briskly out of the Holy Spirit Village. As she walked, she thought about how she could make Big Brother Feng lose without hurting him. My secret technique is the Tang Sek's hidden weapons. I haven't made any hidden weapons yet, but even ordinary stones can be very powerful in my hands. Tang San touched the stones in his arms and sleeves. He occasionally used them to practice his many hidden weapon techniques so that he wouldn't be rusty. But they weren't real hidden weapons, so their power was limited. But they were still very harmful to children. If he controlled a stone well, it wouldn't be a problem for him to make a big bump. Wait, I won't use hidden weapons. I'll just use basic martial arts. I won't use the mysterious heaven method. Judging from Brother Feng's situation when he climbed the mountain that day, his physical fitness is slightly worse than mine. If I use the mysterious heaven method, plus the improvement from swinging the giant hammer these days, Brother Feng won't be able to take a punch. Tang San pondered. It should be. Just based on physical fitness and basic martial arts, it should be enough. This was just Tang San's normal thinking. He didn't mean to look down on Brother Feng. Although it was just a fight between children, Tang San had always been a very serious person. Since he said he wouldn't let Brother Feng feel lonely, Tang San must do what he said. That was why he thought about this. Not long after, Tang San came to an empty forest. It was still the same small forest. Tang San saw Brother Feng. He saw Wang Feng standing in the distance with his hands behind his back, looking at the sky with his back to him. He had the demeanor of an expert. It was just that he was too small. Although he had the demeanor, he looked a little funny. The corner of Tang San's mouth twitched when he saw this. Big Brother Feng's back did look a bit like an expert. It was just that he was too small. He didn't know when. A cool breeze gradually blew. The branches rustled. Brother Feng's clothes were brand new, unlike his, which was washed white. But his back was proud and aloof. You're here. A faint voice came from Brother Feng's mouth. I'm here. Tang San nodded. I knew you would come. Wang Feng continued. Of course I'll come. Didn't we make an agreement? Tang San was puzzled. At this time, Wang Feng suddenly turned around and fixed his eyes on Tang San. After a long time, he slowly said, It's been almost a month. Yes, 20 days. Tang San nodded. Wang Feng sighed and said, What a long 20 days. Tang San was even more puzzled. It's only 20 days, but inexplicably, Tang San sensed a rare bitterness in Big Brother Feng's tone. Coupled with the current situation, Tang San felt an indescribable heaviness. For a moment, he could not speak. After all, 20 days passed in the blink of an eye to him. However, Tang San did not know that these 20 days felt like years to Wang Feng. The training was so arduous that it almost destroyed one's willpower at every moment. Fortunately, Wang Feng knew that he had the meteoric tear. Otherwise, he would have died from this kind of training. Hey, little San, although you haven't read Gulong's novel, you're good at supporting this guy. Ha ha ha. Wang Feng burst out laughing all of a sudden, which instantly destroyed the heavy atmosphere. What he said just now was a short conversation between Fu Hongxue and Yin Nanfei in Gulong's novel. He didn't expect that his mistress would really go up against him. Tang San could not help but feel speechless when he heard this laughter. Brother Feng was really unpredictable. Sometimes he was serious, sometimes he was playful. Come on. Wang Feng's tone suddenly changed. As soon as his voice fell, Tang San kicked the ground with his right foot and ran toward Wang Feng at an extremely fast speed. He faced Wang Feng with an uppercut, hitting the side of Wang Feng's face. With his speed, his peers would definitely be knocked down in one move. They would not be able to react at all. Even an adult man would not be able to withstand it. However, at the moment when this punch was about to hit Wang Feng's cheek, Wang Feng's head moved back an inch as if it had entered a bullet time. It was this 1 inch that allowed him to narrowly avoid this punch. After missing the punch, Tang San did not stop at all. Using his elbow as a weapon, he continued to attack Wang Feng's shoulder. Wang Feng just smiled faintly and moved a few inches to the side again, narrowly avoiding this elbow attack. Seeing this, Tang San was a little surprised. He did not expect Brother Feng to always be able to narrowly avoid him when he was about to hit him. Coincidence? Tang San frowned. Immediately, his orderly punches and kicks were mixed with all kinds of bold and unrestrained attacks. Like a tide, wave after wave, he attacked Wang Feng. If one were to look from afar, one would be able to see a little boy attacking a smiling little boy in a methodical manner with his fists and feet. However, this little boy with a smile on his face was unscathed. He did not let the attacking little boy touch the corner of his clothes. 10 minutes later, Tang San's punch missed again. Then, he stepped back and stared at Brother Feng. He was extremely shocked in his heart. If the first two attacks were said to be coincidences, but the next period of time was a little scary. His attacks had never stopped. Even if it were two grown men, they would still be beaten down by his attacks. They would not have the slightest ability to fight back. Brother Feng did not take a single hit from him. He seems to be able to see through all my attacks. There is only one possibility. His speed is much faster than mine. Tang San was shocked again and again. He was well aware of his own physical fitness. But Brother Feng, this was the truth. In Wang Feng's eyes, all of Tang San's attacks seemed to be at least 3 or 4 times slower. Even if he closed his eyes and chewed on the blue silvergrass, he could still avoid it. To him, all of Tang San's attacks were like bullet time in a game. He could dodge however he wanted to. At this point, Wang Feng had a rough idea of his own strength. It seems that I have to use the mysterious heaven method to increase my speed and strength. I'll finish the battle in 3 punches. Wang Feng's speed aroused Tang San's fighting spirit. Tang San took a deep breath, activated the mysterious heaven method in his body, and rushed toward Wang Feng again. This time, his speed was at least twice as fast. He rushed over as fast as lightning. Wang Feng slightly froze and thought to himself, "Is this the mysterious heaven method? I also have a kind of energy in my body. I wonder how it compares to the internal force produced by Little Three's cultivation of the mysterious heaven method." Every time his body exceeded its limit, the meteoric tear would overflow a stream of energy, flow through his body, and finally stay a few inches below his abdomen. Usually, Wang Feng would not use this special energy. While thinking, Wang Feng still did not use it this time, because Wang Feng felt that with Tang San's speed, he could still dodge. But this time, Wang Feng did not dodge. After having a clear understanding of his own speed, Wang Feng wanted to test his strength. It just so happened that Little Three, who was using the mysterious heaven method, was the perfect target. A punch came at him. Wang Feng first leaned to the side, and his eyes lit up. Without dodging, he raised his right fist and directly met Tang San's fist. Seeing this, Tang San was shocked. He did not expect that Brother Feng would not dodge this time, and he chose to collide with him. Just as he was thinking, Boom! The two fists collided. There was a dull sound of collision. In the next moment, Tang San's expression changed. He felt a huge force coming from Brother Feng's fist, which made his fist numb. Thump, thump, thump. Unable to stop, Tang San retreated more than 10 steps before he could stabilize his body. He was shocked again. His punch was much stronger than an adult's. It was about 200 pounds. Coupled with the mysterious heaven method, his strength increased greatly. This punch was at least 400 pounds, although he expected that Brother Feng, who was very fast, would not be much weaker. But he did not expect that he could not withstand it at all. This meant that Brother Feng's punch was definitely much stronger than his. Could it be that I was wrong? That day, when Brother Feng climbed the mountain, although he did not show great strength, his physical fitness should not have this kind of strength. Tang San was shocked again and again. It's even stronger than when I used the mysterious heaven method. It's incredible. Brother Feng hit it too well, right? Thinking of these years, seeing Brother Feng's lazy appearance every day, Tang San could not help but twitch his mouth. However, what Tang San did not know was I only used 50% of my strength. Wang Fengxin calculated in his mind. His physical fitness was far better than Tang San's. But the key to innate full soul power was not just physical fitness. It was the energy in his body. Wang Feng had read more than half of the Douluo kind of novel. Now he had forgotten a lot of it, but he still read the beginning very carefully. Tang San was able to innate full soul power because he cultivated the mysterious heaven method to the first level. His body produced internal strength, which later transformed into soul power. Therefore, the energy in his body was the key to innate full soul power. But innate full soul power should not be a problem. When the energy in my body exceeded the limit for the fourth time, although the meteoric tear overflowed a lot, the quantity did not increase. Only the quality became higher. Wang Feng knew that this should be because of the rules of the Douluo continent. One must have a soul ring to obtain more energy. Just like Tang San, who could not break through the first level of the mysterious heaven method. At this time, Tang San suddenly said seriously, "Brother Feng, I didn't expect you to be so strong, but I have to be serious. I won't admit defeat so easily." His words were full of arrogance, which made Wang Feng slightly stunned. Is little San going to use a hidden weapon? Tang San, the genius of the Tang sect, was best at hidden weapons. Tang San touched his chest and cuffs. Seeing this, Wang Feng could not help but laugh. "Little San, why are you touching your chest? Are you going to use a hidden weapon?" Hearing this, Tang San paused and did not speak. He only felt that Brother Feng was really sharp. Little San had not made a hidden weapon yet, so he could only use... Thinking of this, Wang Feng smiled calmly and said, "Are you going to use stones as hidden weapons?" "Haha, I bet you don't have any stones in your arms. Admit defeat. Little San." Tang San shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Sorry, Brother Feng, you bet wrong. I have a lot of stones in my arms." Wang Fengxin ridiculed in his mind. It seems that not everyone can be Yin Shuangying. The road is long. I will look up and down. The moment his voice fell, Tang San moved, but he did not attack. Instead, he moved quickly around Wang Feng. Whoosh, whoosh. The pebbles shot towards Wang Feng with great precision, like marbles. The countless stones were like a giant net, making it impossible for Wang Feng to dodge. In an instant, he fell into an extremely dangerous situation. Chapter 7. In such a dangerous situation, Wang Feng didn't move at all. He was just counting the stones that were flying towards him. 1, 2, 3, 27 stones. This should be the torrential pair blossom needles from the mysterious heaven treasure record. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, "Little San hasn't made a hidden weapon that matches it yet. If he uses stones, I'm afraid he can't even use 1,000th of the torrential pear blossom needle's original power. It only has the shape, but no spirit. But it's just right to deal with a kid. If he takes this move, his face will be bruised and swollen." Wang Feng, who had seen the Douluo continent, naturally recognized the method used to throw stones. It was the mysterious Heaven Treasure Record's hidden weapon technique, torrential pear blossom needles. However, Tang Sen was only 6 years old at this time and had only reached the first level of the mysterious heaven technique. He definitely couldn't use the various hidden weapon techniques in the mysterious Heaven Treasure Record perfectly. At the same time, looking at Brother Feng, who was frozen in place and seemed to be stunned, Tang San's lips curled into a faint smile. Ever since he was reborn on the Douluo continent, he spent most of his time practicing the mysterious heaven technique, purple demon eyes, mysterious jade hands, and other techniques from the mysterious Heaven Treasure Record. As for the other hidden weapon techniques, he only practiced them occasionally because he was too young. But it was enough. Tang Sen was naturally familiar with these hidden weapon techniques. Moreover, as he became more familiar with the mysterious heaven technique, mysterious jade hands, and other techniques, he would gradually become stronger with the use of hidden weapons made of different materials. Although I haven't practiced for a while, this torrential pear blossom needles is still passable when I use stones, Tang Sen thought to himself. Although Brother Feng is extremely smart and guessed that I would use hidden weapons, he would never expect that I wouldn't just throw stones casually. These stones were made with the torrential pear blossom needles. I must win this challenge. Thinking of this, even with the experience of 2 lifetimes, Tang Sen couldn't help but feel an indescribable pride. Perhaps Big Brother Feng gave her too much pressure. Being able to defeat Brother Feng gave him a long-lost sense of accomplishment. Tang Sen thought to himself, Brother Feng is really strong, far beyond my imagination. Unfortunately, I have too many trump cards. When Tang Sen thought of Big Brother Feng's strength, he couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. Putting aside the fact that he was forced to use the mysterious heaven skill, he was also forced to use his secret weapon technique, torrential pear blossom needles. Tang Sen looked at the motionless Big Bro Feng in the distance. It was as if he could already see Big Bro Feng's bruised and swollen face. Then, Tang Sen took out the ointment and applied it on Big Bro Feng as soon as he admitted defeat. However, it was also at this moment. In an instant, 27 stones shot out like 27 rays of light towards Wang Feng. Wang Feng moved. He stretched out his hands and waved them in the air with a solemn expression. The speed of his hands was so fast that his hands left countless afterimages. Swish, swish. Every time he waved his 2 palms in the air, there would be a few stones that were shot out and were caught between his fingertips. Not even a second had passed. When Tang Sen took out the ointment, he was instantly stupefied because he saw Big Bro Feng was still standing in the same spot and had only raised 2 palms. Between the 10 fingers of her small and slender palm, there were 27 pebbles. Big Bro Feng actually caught all the stones with his palms in an instant. Tang Sen was stupefied. He knew very well how fast and how powerful the stones he threw out were. To put it bluntly, even if it was a tree stump at such a close distance, it would leave a dent on the tree stump. An adult's naked, I wouldn't be able to see the stones clearly, even if they were several times larger than real secret weapons. Not to mention that he caught all of them with his palms in an instant. Haha, little 3, eat my self-created secret skill, fairy scattering flowers. Wang Feng laughed loudly and suddenly jumped up. He shot the stones in his palms at Tang Sen. However, Wang Feng didn't know how to use the torrential pear blossom needles. He just casually threw them out without any pattern. Forget about using stones to lay a dense net. He just threw them out directly. However, their speed and strength were not inferior. Tang Sen was shocked. Fairy scattering flowers? Could it be that Big Bro Feng also knows secret weapons? Impossible. Could there be a secret weapon technique on the Douluo continent that is on par with my Tang sect? But when he saw the stones being shot at him, he thought to himself, so he was just fooling me. As the Tang sect's master of concealed weapons, Tang Sen could tell with a single glance that Big Brother Feng had thrown the stone without any pattern. It was just a throw. However, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Even if it was just a random throw, the speed was faster than before. Stronger. Tang Sen was shocked and hurriedly dodged. Out of the 27 stones, He nimbly dodged 23 of them, but there were still 4 stones that hit him directly. Sure enough, with Big Bro Feng's strength, even if it's just a casual throw of a stone, the power is stronger than mine. Tang San's expression changed. He felt a sharp pain in his left shoulder, right waist, chest, and calf. They must be swollen. Tang San's face was slightly red, and his face was covered with dense sweat. At this moment, Tang San knew he had lost. Tang San staggered back a few steps and leaned against a big tree before he could barely stand up. While he was shocked, he also felt a little bitter. It had been a long time since he tasted defeat, even though this was just a fight between children. Tang San looked at Big Bro Feng, who was walking over from afar. His face was not red, and his face still had a rosy glow from exercise. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Big Bro Feng, I lost. You seem to be stronger than me. Tang San was a little disappointed. At this moment, Wang Feng came over, patted Tang San's shoulder, and said with a smile, "Little San, be confident." Hearing this, Tang San was stunned. The disappointment in his heart immediately disappeared. What's there to be afraid of? Big Bro Feng is right. Be confident. I'm a genius of the Tang sect. There's no need be disappointed. Only with failure can I become stronger. Thinking of this, Tang San couldn't help but look at Big Bro Feng with gratitude. Big Bro Feng is a very good person. He didn't feel proud after winning. He even comforted me. But just as Tang San was about to thank Wang Feng, he heard Wang Feng laugh and say, "Be confident. Don't say the word seem." The corner of Tang San's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt more pain in his body. At this moment, Wang Feng picked up the ointment on the ground and said in surprise, "Little San, it seems that I have to praise you. I didn't expect you to have such foresight. You even prepared the ointment for yourself?" How could Wang Feng not know this ointment? Little San was afraid that he would get hurt, so he prepared it for himself. The corner of Tang San's mouth twitched again. "Ha ha, I'm just kidding." Wang Feng laughed. "I'll apply the ointment for you." Tang San smiled and nodded. His heart immediately calmed down. At this moment, he was in pain all over his body. When he was dodging the stones just now, he exhausted all his strength. He didn't want to move at all. After Wang Feng applied the ointment for Tang San regained some strength. "Big Bro Feng, you didn't use your full strength just now, right?" Tang San hesitated and asked. "No, I only used about 80% of my strength," Wang Feng said casually. In fact, he only used 50% of his strength. Tang San was stunned. 80% of his strength was enough to crush him. Then, if it was 100%, suddenly, Tang San's fighting spirit was aroused. "Big Bro Feng is very strong. Isn't that good? Do you think Tang San, am weak? My life in the Tang sect for more than 10 years, and the years after my rebirth has been too smooth. I've never experienced failure. Now, Big Bro Feng is telling me that there's always someone better than me. Tang San, must become stronger." For a moment, Tang San thought to himself. Wang Feng did not know what Tang San was thinking at that moment. He only helped him back to the Holy Spirit Village. After defeating Tang San, my innate full soul power is in the bag. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. Next, I'll wait for Big Bro Tao to come to the Holy Spirit Village. After the two parted ways, Tang San limped back to the blacksmith shop. As soon as he came back, he heard his father's voice. "You're back? Rest well. You don't have to forge today for the time being." Tang San was surprised. It had been a long time since he saw his father not sleeping in the morning. It was as if he had guessed something and was waiting for him. Clang, clang, clang. Tang Hao swung his giant hammer and hit the ore. He did not look at Tang San. "Father." Tang San opened his mouth and said in a low voice, "I lost. Big Bro Feng is much stronger than I thought." Tang Hao said calmly. He glanced at the ore that was sent back from the corner of his eye and thought to himself, "He can use my hammer to strike a piece of ore in one go. It's faster than 10 days of hard work. It would be strange if you didn't lose." Chapter 8. Holy Soul Village. After Wang Feng helped Tang San back to the village, he did not go to Tang San's house. Instead, he returned to his own home. While walking on the ground, Wang Feng sized up the surroundings of the Holy Soul Village and observed the changes that had taken place in the village over the past few years. The ground was paved with stones. It was not like the dirt roads of a few years ago. The roads were flat and smooth. The roads were paved with stones that were transported from Notting City. Naturally, the cost was not small. The Holy Soul Village, which used to be ordinary, had been vigorously constructed over the past 2 years. Colorful flowers were planted on both sides of the road. In the center of the village, there was a stone pillar. There was a handprint on the stone pillar. This stone pillar was something that Wang Feng had suggested to village chief Jack, and they had decided to redecorate it. Around the stone pillar, there was a unique dragon headstone sculpture that resembled a dragon-shaped soul beast. Water sprayed out from the dragon's mouth and surrounded the stone pillar. It looked like a miniature garden. In front of the stone pillar, there was a signboard. This signboard introduced the origin of the stone pillar. It was noon. Many outsiders looked at the Holy Soul Village curiously. They walked to the center of the village and looked at the stone pillar. Then, they looked at the signboard. There were small words written on the signboard. Many years ago, there was a girl called Xiao Sun in the Holy Soul Village. She was innocent, lively, and cute. There was also a young man called Xiao Yan. The two of them grew up together. They were childhood sweethearts, until one day, the two of them reached the age of martial soul awakening. Xiao Yan was the hope of the village. He was very talented. Everyone in the village had high hopes for him. They all thought that he could awaken his martial soul and become a powerful soul master. However, on the day of his martial soul awakening, Xiao Yan did not awaken his martial soul. He did not have the aptitude to become a soul master. Even many children awakened their martial souls. He was the only one who did not. Xiao Yan became the trash that everyone in the village looked down on. He did not even have a martial soul. However, at that time, Miss Xiao Sun awakened a powerful martial soul. It was the innate, full soul power that was rarely seen in 100 years. The story ended there. Many people were curious. However, they only saw the following line of words. However, you might not have expected that the soul sage handprint on the stone pillar was not left behind by Lady Xiao Sun. It was left behind by a little flame. If you want to know the story and the reasons, please visit the Holy Soul Village. Seeing this, many passers-by were stunned. Wow, how hateful. How can you not finish the introduction? A foreign tourist said angrily. Hey, look, there's a line of small words in the handprint on the stone pillar. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. Don't bully the young for being poor. Wow, so hot-blooded. Could have been left behind by a little flame? He must have become a soul sage. But how did he do it? No, I have to stay in the Holy Spirit Village for a few years and finish reading the story of the soul sage's handprint. Wang Feng smiled as he looked at the many tourists walking in from outside the village. They stopped in front of the stone pillar and then obediently stayed behind. The Holy Spirit Village is such a remote place with only agriculture. Even if the output increases, it won't make much money. Wang Fengxin chuckled softly. The Holy Spirit Village was doing so well not only because of the increase in the output of the various crops. Instead, it was because of the tourists. In his previous life, it was to develop tourism. This soul sage's handprint was Wang Feng's idea back then. Then he made up the Douluo continent's version of soul shattering the heavens. Perfect. Anyway, the original Douluo continent didn't specify who the soul sage in the Holy Spirit Village was. Wang Feng felt that it shouldn't be a problem if he just made up a random story, right? With the tourists, Wang Feng asked Grandpa Jack to build a holiday house with mountains and rivers. It was built with wooden houses. Then, he left behind a follow-up story to keep the tourists in suspense. At the same time, he allowed them to spend some simple money in the Holy Spirit Village. Gradually, life in the Holy Soul Village became better. Otherwise, how could Wang Feng, a 21st century homebody, get used to the hard life in the Holy Spirit Village, which was similar to the 70s and 80s? How could that be? Who made up this messy story? At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly heard a slightly dissatisfied voice. He turned around and saw a handsome young man with sharp eyebrows. He had his hands behind his back and was staring at the sign beside the stone pillar. The young man was wearing white clothes with a black cloak behind him. In the center of his chest, there was a fist-sized soul character. There was a hint of arrogance between his eyebrows. In the village, many people looked at this young man with curiosity. This was because this young man's temperament and clothes were different. He didn't look like an ordinary person. "Brother Tao, why are you here?" Grandpa Jack said that there are still a few days before the martial soul awakening. Wang Feng looked at this young man in surprise. Although he had never seen him before, he could tell from his clothes and his unique aura. Wang Feng concluded that this young man was the famous tool man in the Douluo continent, Su Yuntao. Thinking of this, Wang Feng walked over and said lazily, "Sir, what's wrong with this story?" Su Yuntao turned around and looked at a child with a lazy expression. It was as if he wasn't afraid of anything. He didn't think that the children from other villages would be afraid and respectful when they saw him. He couldn't help but frown slightly. This story is obviously made up to keep people curious. It's really boring. Su Yuntao looked at Wang Feng and shook his head while pointing at the stone pillar. Disappointed? Why? Wang Feng asked. In this story, Xiaoyan doesn't have a martial soul. However, it hinted that Xiaoyan would become a soul sage. This is obviously impossible. Su Yuntao smiled faintly. A person without a martial soul can't even become a soul master, let alone a soul sage. Isn't this story made up? Hearing this, Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. Brother Tao is still Brother Tao. This is a familiar taste. When Wang Feng first saw the Douluo continent, Tang San had awakened the blue-silver grass martial soul. Brother Tao swore that it was a useless martial soul. Although it didn't appear later, he must have been slapped in the face. So, Wang Feng said unhurriedly, "Since you think it's made up, you can leave the Holy Soul Village." "You kid. Interesting." Su Yuntao laughed involuntarily. "I came here for an important matter. Kid, if you chase me away, I'll leave. If you chase me away, your village chief will spank you." Su Yuntao looked at the kid and said indifferently, "Do you think I came to the Holy Soul Village in advance because I'm curious about this fabricated soul sage story?" Wang Feng shrugged and sighed. "So you're not curious. Unfortunately, I have the complete story with me. It records how Xiao Yan became a soul sage. Since you're not interested, I won't show it to you." With that, Wang Feng turned around and walked into the village. "Eh, you have the complete story?" Su Yuntao was stunned. He looked at the kid's back and walked a few steps forward. He stretched out his hand and wanted to say something but stopped. It seemed like he wanted to stop the kid. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly turned around. Su Yuntao quickly withdrew his hand and placed it behind his back. With a calm expression, he said, "What? Kid, what else do you want?" Wang Feng looked at him strangely, shook his head, and said to himself, "Don't worry. I'm going to awaken my martial soul in a few days. I wonder what martial soul I'll awaken." With that, Wang Feng turned around and left without looking back. "Ha! This kid." Su Yuntao looked at the kid's back and thought for a few seconds. "Just right, I'll stay for a few days. I'll see if there are any good seedlings in the Holy Soul Village who can become soul masters." Several days later. Chapter 9. Holy Spirit Village, Martial Spirit Hall. After some renovations, the Martial Spirit Hall was no longer the dilapidated wooden hut in the original work. Instead, it was built with white jade stone, which gave it the feel of a hall. "Little Feng, it's okay if your martial spirit isn't good." Grandpa Jack stood outside the village with a group of children. First, he patted Wang Feng, who he had raised for a few years, and said kindly, "Without a martial spirit, you can't become a soul master. You can stay in the Holy Spirit Village in the future. It just so happens that our Holy Spirit Village needs you." Wang Feng was speechless. This old guy wanted to keep him in the Holy Spirit Village. After all, many of the changes in the village in the past few years were his ideas. Now that the villagers were living better and better, they naturally wanted him to stay. It It was fine even if they provided him with good food and drink every day. I say, Grandpa, it hasn't awakened yet, Wang Feng said unhappily. Hee, Brother Feng is so lazy every day. Your parents don't have a martial spirit, so you definitely don't have one either. Don't worry. A little boy looked at Wang Feng with a smile. You brat, are you looking for a beating? Wang Feng glared at the little boy. The little boy shrunk his neck and did not dare to speak again. In the past month, Wang Feng had gone through a period of painstaking training. Coupled with the transformation of the meteoric tear, his entire person hadn't undergone earth-shattering changes. His aura had changed a lot. From his previous lazy appearance, there was a hint of sharpness. In addition, the children in the village were already afraid of him. When he glared at them, these timid children would probably have nightmares at night. I think that among all of you, Little Sen has the most hope of becoming a soul master. Awaken a powerful martial spirit. Grandpa Jack looked at the silent Tang San and recalled the situation 2 days ago when he went to Tang Hao's house. He could not help but shake his head. Tang Hao, that stubborn old man. As for Little Feng, Grandpa doesn't expect you to become a soul master. Grandpa Jack looked at Wang Feng and said with a smile, if you can awaken an ordinary martial spirit, such as a blue-silver grass, a hoe, or a sickle, Grandpa will be satisfied. It's more or less useful. Wang Feng, do you have so little confidence in me? But thinking about it, Wang Feng felt that it was true. Martial spirits were usually determined by the biological parents. Most of them were passed down. His biological parents, who had transmigrated to the Douluo continent, were just ordinary peasants who didn't even have a martial soul. She was not like a mistress whose parents were so arrogant. All right, follow me in. When you meet the Battle Soul Grandmaster later, you don't have to be afraid. However, don't talk too much either. Don't make him impatient. Jack exhorted the children. Then, he led the children into the Martial Spirit Palace. Not long after, they walked in. A young man was standing in the center of the Martial Spirit Palace. Hearing the footsteps, the young man turned around and looked at the crowd. This is the Soul Master from Nodding City, Su Yuntao, Jack said respectfully to the young man. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he was stunned. He hurriedly took a few steps forward and said in a low voice, Master Su, do we not treat you well these 2 days? Why do you have dark circles? Yes, Su Yuntao had arrived at the Saint Spirit village 2 days ago. He said that he wanted to see if there were any children in the village who had the potential to become a soul master. But why were there dark circles under her eyes now? It was obvious that he hadn't rested well. No, I'm just a little tired. Let's start quickly, Su Yuntao said impatiently. Wang Feng, who was looking at this scene, almost laughed out loud. Brother Tao's appearance was very similar to him. He used to stay up all night to read novels in his previous life. When he came 2 days ago, his hair was clean and crisp. His entire body emitted a feeling that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Unlike now, his hair was wrinkled and oily, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He must have been collecting the story of the soul shattering the firmament that he made up and stayed up all night to read it. Su Yuntao was also very annoyed. He just wanted to finish this test quickly and continue reading the story of the soul shattering the firmament. It was really strange. It was obviously a very vulgar story, but it made him accidentally addicted to it these 2 days. What the hell? And that brat, he actually said that he had the complete story. Su Yuntao looked at the children with a troubled expression. When his gaze fell on Wang Feng, he was startled. Isn't this that brat? Humph. I am Su Yuntao, a rank 26 Soul Grandmaster. Su Yuntao looked at Wang Feng indifferently. He wanted to use this to suppress this brat. As expected, after hearing these words, the eyes of the other children were filled with worship and respect. Even Tang San showed curiosity. Unexpectedly, only that little brat looked at him indifferently and said casually, Battle Soul Master, you're so powerful. Can you start now? Our martial spirits are already unable to endure the thirst and want to come out. Poochie, hearing these words, the children immediately laughed. Even Tang San smiled knowingly. Brother Feng is indeed Brother Feng. Heartless, not afraid of the heavens or the earth. Su Yuntao choked. This little brat. Forget it, seeing that you have the complete story of the soul shattering the firmament. I am too lazy to argue with you. Oomph. I have already passed through 6 villages, and there is not a single person with soul power, not to mention a slightly better martial spirit. Su Yuntao shook his head. Obviously, even you are not much better. Soon after, he did not speak anymore. He directly took out 6 jet-black round stones and scattered them on the ground, forming a hexagonal shape. Then, he took out a crystal ball. From left to right, go inside one by one. Su Yuntao pointed to the hexagonal shape on the ground. A faint light emerged from the hexagonal shape. The first child walked in. Su Yuntao shouted softly, "Lone wolf." 2 soul rings, one white and one yellow, rose from his body. At the same time, Su Yuntao's figure also rapidly expanded, full of power. Many children were stunned and took a step back. There was fear in their eyes, but there was also worship and curiosity. Su Yuntao quickly moved towards the hexagonal stone, and his hands quickly shot out several green lights. The golden light flashed slightly and enveloped the child. "Stretch out your right hand." Su Yuntao shouted softly. The child hurriedly stretched out his hand, and a small sickle appeared. Then he touched the crystal ball, but there was no reaction. Su Yuntao shook his head. The child walked out with a face full of disappointment. Immediately after, the children behind him walked in one by one. The more he went, the more disappointed Su Yuntao was, all the way until Tang-san. The golden light was even brighter than the previous few. Golden legend, Wang Feng muttered. He looked at Tang-san's left hand and thought, the clear sky hammer should be in Tang-san's left hand, right? Tang-san clenched his left hand tightly and opened his right hand, revealing a blue silvergrass. Seeing this blue silvergrass, Tang-san's face darkened. "Brother Feng, are you poisonous?" Tang-san was speechless in his heart. In fact, it was not a big deal to have a blue silvergrass, but Brother Feng said that his martial spirit was blue silvergrass, which made Tang-san feel helpless. Of course, Tang-san did not believe that Brother Feng decided the martial spirit, but it was too inauspicious. However, Tang-san slightly squeezed his left hand. He felt that this hand seemed to have condensed a martial spirit, but Tang-san did not want to show it. Blue-silver grass again. Su Yuntao shook his head, but in the next moment his eyes widened. After Tang-san placed his hand on the crystal ball, an incomparably dazzling blue light filled the entire room. Innate, full spirit. Su Yuntao cried out involuntarily. After losing his voice, Su Yuntao came back to his senses after a long time. Looking at Tang-san, his eyes were filled with shock and disappointment. Wang Feng stared at the crystal ball, thinking, if I mobilize all the energy in my body, it will be enough. Chapter 10. Wang Feng didn't know if it would explode. However, Tang-san's innate, full soul power shocked Su Yuntao. Su Yuntao noticed the curiosity in Tang-san's eyes and couldn't help but sigh. To become a soul master, soul power is of utmost importance. No matter how trashy your martial soul is, as long as you have soul power, you can cultivate through meditation and become a soul master. None of the children before you had soul power. But you were born with rank 10 soul power, which is the so-called innate full soul power. Su Yuntao's eyes were filled with complex emotions. Innate full soul power was a rare talent, but his martial soul was blue silvergrass. Yes, Tang-san nodded. Innate full soul power means you have the aptitude to become a soul master. The higher your aptitude, the faster your cultivation speed. Su Yuntao looked at Tang-san and continued. Innate full soul power has only appeared a handful of times in the continent. So far, you're the first and last one I've seen. It's impossible for me to meet a second one, but unfortunately, your martial soul is blue silvergrass. Hearing this, Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. I say, Master, am I transparent? Why can't a second one appear? This Brother Tao is really something. I've been standing here for a long time. Can't you at least let me finish the test before saying this? Little Feng, don't make trouble. Before Su Yuntao could speak, Village Chief Jack glared at Wang Feng. How can you compare to Little San? It's already good that you can awaken your martial soul. Do you think innate, full soul power is something you can find on the streets? Wang Feng, seeing Village Chief Jack reprimanding the little brat, Su Yuntao laughed and shook his head. Innate full soul power is hard to come by in 100 years. It's already rare for one to appear in the Holy Soul Village. What he meant was, little brat, don't think too much. However, Tang San thought that it wasn't rare at all. It was because he cultivated the mysterious heaven method. Otherwise, it was impossible for an ordinary child to have innate full soul power. For no reason at all. How could there be this kind of internal energy that he had cultivated in his body? Unless he was a super genius who didn't need to cultivate and had innate soul power. Tang San thought this kind of super genius was extremely rare. At this time, Wang Feng was dissatisfied. So, Master Su Yuntao, do you mean that it's impossible for me to have innate full soul power? Although Wang Feng did not know if the energy in his body would be able to stimulate the energy ball's reaction. However, Wang Feng felt very unhappy when he was rejected like that. Tang San couldn't help but walk in front of Wang Feng. Big brother Feng, be more confident. Remove the word seems. Tang San knew very well that he wasn't a super genius. It was because he cultivated the mysterious heaven skill, but Big Brother Feng didn't cultivate the mysterious heaven skill. Brother Feng's innate talent is extraordinary, and his body's constitution is extraordinary, but soul power is related to one's body. Also, when they were fighting earlier, Tang San didn't notice that Big Brother Feng used any energy similar to internal strength. It was pure physical fitness that was terrifyingly strong. Therefore, Tang San felt that it was impossible for him to possess the true innate full soul power. Wang Feng, oh little third child, you've improved. You even learned how to scold people like me. The corner of Wang Feng's mouth twitched. As expected of the main character, his learning ability is amazing. Okay, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Come in. Let's test your martial spirit first. Su Yuntao glared at Wang Feng. Wang Fengxin snorted and walked directly to the center of the hexagon. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully using the mysterious martial spirit. Please close your eyes. Feel the mysterious martial spirit. A familiar voice rang in his mind. Wang Fengxin was shocked. Immediately, he closed his eyes. Boom! Then, his mind seemed to explode with a loud bang. He fell into an endless chaos. In the center of the chaos, a mysterious lotus flower quietly bloomed, emitting a grand and ancient aura. That is, Wang Feng stared at the green lotus. Vaguely, he seemed to see a supreme world. The next moment, the green lotus suddenly flew toward Wang Feng and entered between his eyebrows in an instant. Boom! His consciousness instantly exploded. Endless echoes echoed in Wang Feng's mind. He couldn't hear anything, and he couldn't see anything, until a very, very long time had passed. Wang Feng came back to his senses and heard a calm voice in his ear. Another trash martial spirit, an unknown wild flower. The voice sounded. Wang Feng opened his eyes and looked at the martial spirit in his hand. A mysterious pocket-sized green lotus quietly bloomed in the palm of his hand. It looked similar to the 9 stars begonia, but the shape of the petals was completely different. Moreover, there were 12 leaves wrapped around the 24 petals in the center. It was extremely beautiful. It's a flower-shaped martial spirit that I've never seen before. Su Yuntao shook his head. It looks similar to the most powerful support-type martial spirit, the 9 hearts begonia. However, it's completely different. It looks pretty good. Unfortunately, it's useless. Instead, it was Tang San who looked at that green lotus and was slightly surprised. Lotus? Brother Feng's martial spirit was very similar to the lotus flower he saw in his previous life. However, this green lotus had a special beauty. No wonder Master Su Yuntao couldn't recognize it. Tang, since secretly thought. In a world of Douluo, continent, Tang, San didn't see any lotus-like plants. However, although it's called a lotus flower, it's not completely. Tang Sin thought, perhaps it's not necessarily a trash martial spirit. Not bad, not bad. Only Jack's grandfather said with a smile. Little Feng, it's not bad if we can plant this flower in our village in the future. Wang Feng suddenly laughed. This wasn't a trash martial spirit. It wasn't an ordinary lotus flower either. How could something given by the system be simple? In addition, his consciousness had seen the mysterious green lotus in the dark and chaotic world just now. I'm afraid this is the chaos green lotus. Wang Fengxin thought with a trembling voice. As a huge fan of novels in his previous life, he naturally knew about it. In China's ancient mythology, it was a chaotic treasure from the prehistoric era. It was a terrifying thing that he couldn't even imagine. His martial spirit was actually such a terrifying thing. Wang Feng looked at the blooming green lotus, and his body trembled a little. There were countless versions of the prehistoric era myths, but this chaos green lotus was really amazing. According to the legends, ancestor god Pangu was born from the seeds of this chaos green lotus. However, Wang Feng only saw 4 lotus seeds in the lotus seat. This chaos green lotus was probably different. In the ancient legends, the seeds of the chaos green lotus were refined. Then it transformed into the 36th grade world cleansing green lotus. Then it transformed into 3 treasures: the Trigem Jade Scepter, the Tai Buddha Whisk, and the Qingping Sword. The remaining 3 lotus seeds transformed into the 12th grade Virtuous Golden Lotus, the 12th grade Red Lotus of Hellfire, and the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. They were all supreme, innate, defensive, spiritual treasures. They had different functions. The 5 lotus leaves transformed into the 5 element flags, which were respectively the yellow apricot flag, thousands of golden lotuses, unbreakable; the green lotus flag, relic light, calming the heart; the floating flame flag, chaos yin and yang, reversing the 5 elements; the white cloud boundary flag, mysterious phenomenon, bright heaven and earth; the Zhenwu eagle flag, hazy heaven and earth covering the sky. Simply put, it had various effects such as control, dispelling control, regaining consciousness, and confusion. The seed pod of the green lotus transformed into the cauldron of heaven and earth, which could refine the essence of items. Simply put, it could increase the grade of items. Its roots absorbed the innate killing aura and transformed into the god-killing spear, which could even injure the primordial spirit of a saint. There were many more. Wang Feng's eyes turned red as he looked at the mysterious green lotus. Although he didn't know if it was really as abnormal as the legend said, this wasn't a real chaos green lotus. It was just a martial soul form. However, even if it was a martial soul, it only needed to display some of its power. Mutated 9-hearted begonia and 7 treasures glazed pagoda were not even worthy of carrying the shoes of this thing. Moreover, it was an all-round martial soul. As the Soul Master's rank increases, this green lotus will display different kinds of power. Wang Fengxin's heart was burning. A strong sense of curiosity arose from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to dig out the power of this mysterious green lotus and find out if it was as abnormal as he imagined. Just imagine if this green lotus could transform into the form that Wang Feng imagined, such as the 3 precious jade scepter, Qingping sword, or the 36 grade world cleansing green lotus, or the 12 grade world destruction black lotus, or the 5 element flags, the universe cauldron, and the god-devouring spear. It would have different abilities, different forms would have different powers. Who the F***CK could withstand that? Su Yuntao looked at the excited Wang Feng and couldn't help but shake his head. How can an unknown wildflower martial soul be so excited? All right, do you still want to test your soul power? Su Yuntao frowned and asked. Let's forget about it. He wanted to leave some face for this little rascal. Forget about it? Wang Feng was taken aback and waved his hand. No need, just test it casually. After saying that, Wang Feng casually placed his palm on the crystal ball. Boom! Golden light burst out. It was so bright that they couldn't open their eyes. Chapter 11. The dazzling golden light filled the entire martial spirit palace. Su Yintao was dumbfounded. His mouth trembled as he said a few words. Innate full soul power? At the same time, inside the house, Grandpa Jack and Tang San were also extremely shocked when they saw this scene. Especially Tang San. Brother Feng also has innate full soul power? Tang San was shocked. He knew the reason why he had innate full soul power was because he cultivated the mysterious heaven technique since he was young. He didn't have innate full soul power, but it was impossible for Brother Feng to cultivate it. In these years, Tang San saw that Brother Feng was incomparably lazy. He didn't even exercise much, let alone cultivate. He didn't have any way to cultivate talent, innate talent. Tang San was amazed. I am a transmigrator who cultivated the mysterious heaven technique to reach innate full soul power. But Brother Feng is really talented. He is a real super genius. Otherwise, he can't beat me and have innate full soul power. Although his martial spirit is not better than mine. But Tang San's heart skipped a beat. He gently opened his left hand behind his back, revealing a small hammer martial spirit. I seem to have two martial spirits, but I don't know what martial spirit this is. Maybe Dad should know. Thinking, Tang San couldn't help but look at Brother Feng. But he found that Brother Feng was still looking at his newly awakened mysterious lotus martial spirit. It seemed that he didn't care about innate full soul power at all. He couldn't help but feel speechless. Of course, Tang San didn't know. Wang Feng only took a month to reach innate full soul power. He didn't have any innate talent, nor was he a super genius. He relied on this month to train to the brink of death. He relied on the energy from the meteoric tear to reach innate full soul power. But at this time, Wang Feng didn't care. Instead, he was extremely curious about the azure lotus martial spirit. It seems that this energy ball is going to explode. Suddenly, Wang Feng glanced at the energy ball used to test soul power. There seemed to be some cracks on it. He quickly quivered and controlled the remaining energy in his body, not allowing it to enter the energy ball. Otherwise, it would definitely explode. Innate full soul power is enough. If it really explodes, it will be bad. What if it's captured and researched by someone in the future? Wang Feng pondered. One had to be more careful when acting tough. It was fine as long as it was in place. Furthermore, Wang Feng had not studied the azure lotus martial spirit, so he did not know if it was the same as what he had imagined. Even if it was true, he was still not strong enough to unleash the full power of the green lotus. Ding! Congratulations to host for using the innate full soul power. The reward is a mysterious humanoid martial spirit. This martial spirit requires the host to comprehend its power by himself. The next check-in location will be at the Shrek Academy. If you can reach rank 30 and have a 10,000-year soul ring or above, there will be a special reward. A familiar voice sounded. Wang Feng's body trembled slightly. Strands of black light flashed across his eyes. Mysterious humanoid martial spirit. Comprehend on your own? Wang Feng was a little shocked. Even though Wang Feng had already punched the card twice, he could roughly feel it. Although the things given by the system were awesome, Lin Fan could not help but feel a little disappointed. However, he had to slowly develop and research them himself before he could use them. It was definitely not as simple as he had imagined. Just like the meteoric tear, this creation azure lotus martial spirit was the same. Wang Feng could feel that if he wanted to unleash the power of this azure lotus martial spirit, he would need to put in a lot of effort. After all, this thing was really not simple. However, this self-comprehension made Wang Feng dumbfounded. At least give me a hint. Twin martial spirits. And it's a humanoid martial spirit. There's no hint at all. How can I comprehend it? Wang Feng was a little speechless. But fortunately, this creation azure lotus martial spirit had already given him a big surprise. Well, little rascal, you also have the innate full soul power. Su Yuntao's face was slightly red. Thinking of what he had just said, he felt extremely embarrassed. I, Su Yuntao, have used up all my luck in this life. A village that had 2 innate full soul power, and I met them both. Su Yuntao recalled that he only had rank 2 soul power, silently sighing in his heart. Su Yuntao looked at old Jack and said, "These 2 children are not simple. Although it's a pity that their martial spirits are not good, they can still become soul masters. Well, I have to leave." Su Yuntao felt that his pride had been destroyed. Suddenly, he thought of Little Flame in the story and inexplicably longed for the continuation of the story. Thinking about it, Su Yuntao directly walked to the door. Suddenly, he turned around and looked at Wang Feng. "Little rascal, do you really have a complete story?" "Yes," Wang Feng said with a smile. "You want it?" "No problem, but you have to promise me one thing." "Say it." Wang Feng waved his hand at Su Yuntao, hinting him to pass him the ear. Wang Feng said a few words in Su Yuntao's ear. After he finished speaking, Su Yuntao was startled. "Are you sure?" Su Yuntao looked at Wang Feng with a strange expression. "Nonsense," Wang Feng said. "No problem. I'm very happy to have this request." Su Yuntao smiled. "In 3 months, the registration for Nodding Elementary Soul Master Academy will be held. At that time, I'll come and find you. I hope you'll be prepared by then." Wang Feng nodded his head in satisfaction. Then he took out a stack of paper from his bosom and handed it to Su Yuntao. Seeing this, Su Yuntao quickly folded the paper, coughed a few times, and put it away as if it was a treasure. "Well, old Jack, I'll leave first." Su Yuntao waved his hand at Jack, a happy smile reappearing on his face. Old Jack hurried over and saw Su Yuntao off. "Brother Feng, what request did you make to Master Su just now? Why is he so happy?" Tang Sen asked curiously. "Nothing, I just said that I'll fight with him in 3 months." Wang Feng said casually. "After all, people have to climb higher. Little San, fighting with you won't give me any experience. You're useless." Tang San's face darkened. After interacting with Brother Feng for so many years, he knew that Brother Feng would occasionally say some words with special meanings. He was full of imagination. He could roughly understand the meaning of experience points. Tang Sen lightly snorted. He thought to himself, "Wait until I start cultivating the mysterious heaven treasure record and refine a real concealed weapon. I'll go back and ask my father about my second martial soul. At that time, Big Brother Feng might not be able to defeat me." "Wait, Brother Feng, what did you say? You want to fight with Master Su?" Suddenly, Tang Sen thought of something and couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Brother Feng, are you sure? He's a rank 26 soul master. He also has a beast martial soul, Lone Wolf. When the time comes, won't you be beaten up by him for nothing?" Just now, when Su Yuntao was possessed by the Lone Wolf, Tang San felt the powerful aura very clearly. A real soul master. "Brother Feng, we're only 6 years old. Do you want to challenge an adult soul master? Or a rank 26 soul master with a beast martial soul?" 3 months, Tang San shook his head. In 3 months, with his strength, he could at most take a few more moves from Su Yuntao. Moreover, in 3 months, Su Yuntao's strength would also increase. Thinking of the smile on Su Yuntao's face when he left, Tang San mourned for Brother Feng for a few seconds in his heart. It seems at this time, I really have to prepare the ointment for Brother Feng in advance. Chapter 12. After old Jack sent Su Yuntao away, he returned to the Martial Spirit Hall and looked at Wang Feng and Tang San. Good. Old Jack's kind face looked at the 2 children in surprise. One grew up by his side, and the other grew up under his watch. Although it might be because of the environment, the martial spirit was not good. But innate full soul power, not to mention other things, the soul master was definitely stable, right? Thinking that the Holy Spirit Village could produce 2 soul masters today, old Jack couldn't stop smiling. I really didn't expect that Lin Feng would also have innate full soul power. Old Jack looked at Wang Feng in disbelief. His expression was as surprised as if he saw a monkey jump out of a stone. Wang Feng, looking at Jack's grandfather's expression as if he had seen a ghost, Wang Feng felt a little annoyed. But if it was according to the original work, he should be one of those children. He was a somewhat intelligent minor character. His original style was completely different from Tang San's. No wonder old Jack was so surprised. There's still 3 months before the registration of Notting Junior Academy. Although our village only has 1 spot, it doesn't matter. Old Jack looked at the 2 children, and the smile on his face never stopped. Lin Feng, let's not talk about it. Little San, let's go. I'll go to your house and talk to your father. Okay, Grandpa Village Chief. Tang San nodded. As he spoke, old Jack took Tang San outside and went to Tang Hao's blacksmith shop. Wang Feng did not follow, because Jack's grandfather would probably quarrel with Tang Hao. He was not in the mood to watch. Wang Feng ran outside the village and into the familiar small forest. There's still 3 months. Brother Tao is a level 26 soul master. With my current strength, it will be very difficult to defeat him. Wang Fengxin secretly thought. Using Su Yuntao to test his strength and give him some pressure was Wang Feng's consideration. However, Su Yuntao was from the martial spirit hall. Wang Feng did not want to expose too much. He did not necessarily have to defeat him. Just a talent that surpassed innate full soul power, once exposed, was very likely to attract the attention of the martial spirit hall. Wang Feng could be sure that the energy in his body now surpassed innate full soul power. He should be above level 20 or even higher. Wang Feng didn't know the details. If the martial spirit palace knew about this, they would probably send people to capture him and dissect him. One had to know that in Douluo, Continent 1, there seemed to be only one Qian Renxue who had surpassed the innate full soul power and reached rank 20. However, Qian Renxue was the daughter of Bibi Dawn, the leader of the martial spirit palace. You're just from a small village. What makes you think you can surpass rank 20 innate full soul power? It would be strange if they didn't capture you and study you. Therefore, I can only use my innate full soul power to fight against Su Yuntao. Wang Feng clenched his fist. Physical fitness is the foundation. The Azure Lotus martial spirit should be the key. Thinking of this, Wang Feng looked around, took a deep breath, and gently opened his right hand. A green lotus quietly bloomed. Looking at the Azure Lotus, Wang Feng slowly channeled a small portion of his soul power into the Azure Lotus martial spirit. Following the infusion of soul power, the mysterious Azure Lotus suddenly bloomed with a strange light. At the center of the lotus platform, among the 4 lotus seeds, a smaller lotus seed quietly bloomed and emitted an endless golden light. Wang Feng stared at it closely, continuously channeling his soul power into it. The light was dazzling. The lotus seed seemed to have received nutrients and rapidly expanded. In a flash, it slowly bloomed from the lotus platform, gold, pure and dazzling gold. The gentle and orthodox golden light corroded Wang Feng's body. It symbolized warmth, healing, and a special power, causing Wang Feng to feel extremely happy. Is this the first form of the Azure Lotus, the 12th grade Golden Lotus? Wang Feng took a deep breath and looked at the small golden lotus that bloomed from the 4 lotus seeds. It was like a spring breeze. After the appearance of the golden lotus, Wang Feng felt the energy in his body rapidly depleting. It could be imagined that the amount of soul power needed to make the Azure Lotus evolve into its first form was unimaginable. However, it was normal. The stronger the martial spirit, the higher the requirement of soul power to use it. Tang San's clear sky hammer, with his current innate full soul power, it would be difficult for him to use it for 20 seconds. He would probably collapse in 10 seconds. However, Wang Feng was sure that the amount of soul power needed to use the Azure Lotus martial spirit was even more astonishing. In China's legends, the 12th grade virtuous golden lotus is an innate spirit treasure. I don't know what use it has. After all, I have never been to the innate world. However, the golden lotus, as a martial spirit, gives me a very strange feeling. Perhaps. Wang Feng calculated the energy in his body. 30 seconds was the limit. Without hesitation, Wang Feng looked around looking for something that he could experiment with. Suddenly, Wang Feng's eyes lit up. Not far away, there was an injured bird lying on the ground. Let's experiment. Wang Feng walked over and looked at the injured bird. He couldn't help but be stunned. Isn't this the bird that I saved from the fangs of a poisonous snake a few days ago? It's only been a few days, and it's injured again? Oh, it's really tough. Its wings and abdomen are all injured. I can even see its internal organs. It's not far from death, right? This little thing, Wang Feng was speechless. After pondering for a second, he directly controlled the golden lotus in the center of his palm and released the power of the golden lotus towards the bird. The golden light was as smooth as silk as chocolate as it wrapped around the bird. The next moment, Wang Feng opened his eyes wide as he looked at the bird that was wrapped in the golden light. He saw that the scratches on the bird's wings were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wound on its abdomen was also rapidly healing. Its originally closed eyes also opened. In just a few seconds, the bird had recovered to its original state. Wang Feng was also sweating profusely as he squatted down, looking as if he had been hollowed out. The energy in his body was passively absorbed into the golden lotus in the last few seconds. Originally, he could only control a small portion of the energy. Because he didn't have a soul ring, he couldn't use the rest of the energy. However, as the golden light wrapped around the bird, all the energy in his body was directly absorbed. Not a single drop left. At the same time, the golden lotus that had lost its soul power quickly returned to its lotus seed form and revealed the appearance of the azure lotus. It quietly floated there. The little bird flew up happily and danced around Wang Feng. It can even recover to its original state. Wang Feng's face was filled with shock as he looked at the little bird that was even more vigorous than before. Was this the little bird that was almost on its last breath? The first form of the golden lotus could even heal and revive a little bird in such a situation. Moreover, Wang Feng looked at the little bird. It seemed to have become much stronger. She danced in the air. Her bright bird eyes were filled with intelligence, as if she had been given a new power. The little bird flew to a branch at the side and used its mouth to peck at the tree trunk crazily. After a while, she pecked out a small hole. However, it seemed that she was still very excited as she flew crazily in the air. Is it in heat? Wang Feng was stunned. Could it be that I used too much of the power of the golden lotus? Chapter 13. The power of the first form of the golden lotus should be more than this. Wang Feng didn't look at the little bird again and just thought, I don't have a soul ring now. If I have a soul ring, the first form of the golden lotus should be able to derive other abilities. In other words, this was only the ability of the golden lotus. After having a soul ring, the other abilities of the golden lotus would be unlocked. That was a real soul skill. It's really strong. Wang Feng felt the mysterious green lotus martial spirit in his body. Just the first form of the golden lotus already had such a terrifying recovery ability. If it reached a higher realm, the second, third, fourth, and so on, what kind of ability would it have? Wang Feng couldn't imagine. He walked towards a small lake in the distance, wanting to take a cold bath to calm his burning heart before continuing his training. However, Wang Feng didn't know. Not long after he left, the little bird chirped excitedly and waved its wings at a thumb-sized branch without holding back. Swish, a light flashed. The branch was broken into two. If Wang Feng was here, he would be so shocked that his jaw would drop. Even if the branch was very small, it could be cut into two with just its wings. This was no longer an ordinary bird. It was a soul beast. This ordinary little bird had actually evolved into a real soul beast. And it wasn't an ordinary soul beast. She had gained intelligence. Watching Wang Feng leave, the little bird stood on the branch and blinked, not looking away for a long time. This was the first time Wang Feng accidentally used the full power of the first form of the golden lotus. It was far beyond Wang Feng's imagination. Not only could it recover, but it could also give it the ability to cultivate and gain intelligence. Wang Feng walked to a small lake, took off his shirt, and jumped in like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. The soul ring may still take some time. After all, hunting soul beasts is not easy. Wang Feng swam nimbly in the water like a beautiful male fish, but his mind was constantly thinking. Wang Feng was clear that his current physical fitness and defense were very strong. An ordinary knife might not be able to hurt him. Also, his endurance was so strong that it made Wang Feng's scalp numb. But in other aspects such as speed, strength, flexibility, and so on, it was about twice that of an adult man. Compared to the special forces in his previous life, it was slightly stronger. That was why it could crush Xiao San. However, there was still a big gap between them and the real top-notch weapon kings. On the Douluo continent, this bit of strength wasn't enough to hunt soul beasts. The first form of the Golden Lotus had no lethality. Did this mean that before he reached level 20, he could only rely on hand-to-hand combat? Furthermore, it was unrealistic for him to comprehend the mysterious humanoid martial spirit without any clues. While thinking, Wang Feng swam 10 laps around the lake and then walked ashore. He started his normal training. First, he ran 10 laps around the small forest. Then, he moved to the branches and practiced his agility. He ran from one point to another without breaking a single branch. After that, it was the obstacle run in the forest. Over the past month, Wang Feng had set up more than 10 obstacles in the forest, big and small, for his training. Some were traps on the ground, some were flying stones, and some were obstructive traps made of various farming tools. They circled around the small forest, forming a winding route. It was extremely terrifying. Even the special forces in his previous life would be covered in injuries after entering this obstacle course. However, Wang Feng was unscathed as he shuttled through it. This kind of reaction was the key to being able to catch Xiao Sandstone. After that, Wang Feng began to carry a flattened tree trunk on his back. It was 4 to 5 meters long and began all kinds of training. This tree trunk was at least 100 kilograms. Weight training brought about a huge burden, and it was not easy to control. However, on Wang Feng's body, it was firmly fixed. Frog jumps, push-ups, dumbbell lifts, running with weights, swinging in the lake, and the indispensable squats. In any case, Wang Feng had tried all the training he could think of in his previous life. However, as his physical fitness increased, it was difficult to reach his body's limit. The main reason was that his physical strength was too strong. Sometimes, he wouldn't be tired even after doing it for half a day. The transformation brought about by the meteoric tear was that his defense and endurance were the strongest. It could also be because of the direction of his training. I have to increase my strength, Wang Feng thought. I also need to increase the weight. It would be best if I could bind it to my entire body. For a long time, I wouldn't take it off when I eat, drink, and sleep. Oh right, there's also the wild wind hammer. Thinking of this, Wang Feng's body trembled. He did not need Tang how to teach him the wild wind hammer. He had read the original novel, so he naturally knew. The most powerful part of this hammering technique was to use the rebound force of a full-strength strike. By changing the posture, the rebound force would be unleashed again, causing the strength of each hammer strike to gradually increase. To be honest, it was a little unscientific. It was like a F*King perpetual motion machine. In theory, one hammer strike could be stronger than the previous one. However, the further one went, the greater the consumption, and the more terrifying the power would be. With Tang Hao's strength as a titled law, it seemed that he could only swing 81 hammers. However, the strength of 81 hammers would increase exponentially. One could imagine how monstrous it would be in the end. However, Wang Feng thought about it and decided not to ask Tang how to teach him this unique technique. Tang Hao reluctantly taught that technique to Tang, and only after his third son awakened his second clear sky hammer martial soul. Only his own son would teach him that. Not to mention himself. But I can try myself? Wang Feng's eyes lit up. I just need to practice according to this direction, and it should be fine, right? Using the rebound force of a hammer strike, each hammer strike's stronger than the previous one. I'm a transmigrator after all. I've been transformed by the meteoric tear. Why can't I be self-taught? Using the rebound force of a hammer strike is a common technique in Huaxia. So, Tang Hao can create this hammering technique? Can I Wang Feng do it? Why must I learn his wild hammering technique? It's fine if I'm a salted fish, but I already have a golden finger. Why can't I give it a try? After finding the right direction, Wang Feng swung the tree trunk and jumped up excitedly. Then, he went to Tang Hao's blacksmith shop and borrowed a hammer. Wait a minute, Uncle Hao. Do you have any of those bigger oars here? When he arrived at Tang Hao's blacksmith shop, he could still see Tang San hammering oars. Tang Hao, on the other hand, seemed to be giving him pointers. Old Jack should have finished talking with Tang Hao. After Tang Hao found out that his son also had the clear sky hammer, he taught the foundation of the wild hammering technique to Tang San. Wang Feng glanced at Tang San and guessed that Tang San must have mastered the technique. Big oars? How big do you want? Tang Hao glanced at Wang Feng. About 100 caddies? Wang Feng asked. It'd be best if you can get a few more pieces. Wang Feng wanted to use this raw iron to forge his own refined weight-bearing protective gear. After refining 100 caddies of oars, there should be about 60 to 70 caddies left, right? If he could make it into protective gear and wear it for training, the consumption would be much higher. Yes, Tang Hao took out a few pieces of oars. What are you going to do with these, kid? Hee, you'll know when the time comes. Wang Feng took the 2 pieces of oars that weighed about 100 caddies. He swung his hammer and ran away like the wind. Bro Feng must be trying to train himself, but it's not easy to carry such heavy oars. Also, he doesn't know how to smith. Tang San could not help but be curious as he watched Wang Feng leave. Tang Hao glanced at his son and thought, that kid Feng really doesn't know how to smith. But he's much better than you. He could directly use a hammer to smash a small piece of raw iron into raw iron with one full blow. Bro Feng is going to fight that grandmaster, Su Yuntao, in 3 months. I don't know what he's thinking, Tang San said with a smile. Oh, Tang Hao was surprised. Isn't Su Yuntao a level 26 Battle Soul Grandmaster? He's just a 6-year-old kid, and he wants to fight a Battle Soul Grandmaster? Yes, that's why I find it unbelievable. Tang San thought that he might have a chance to fight Su Yuntao if he could forge his own hidden weapons. Hidden weapons had to be hidden in the dark to unleash their full power. They would be much weaker in an open fight. If he had thrown a pebble at Bro Feng when he lost him that day, Bro Feng might not have been able to react in time. Interesting. Tell me about it when the day comes. I'd like to take a look, Tang Hao said casually. Okay. Tang San was surprised. He did not know why his father was interested in this matter. All right, little 3, you don't have to hammer anymore. I'll show you the technique I just mentioned. Pay attention to my body posture. Several days later, Tang San wiped the tears on his forehead, put down the hammer, and muttered, the way Dad taught me is amazing. I can only swing the hammer 8 times in a row. I don't know what Bro Feng is doing these days. However, Tang San was very excited when he thought of the hammering technique that leveraged the force of the hammer. Let's go and see Lil 3. He's been buying oars for the past few days. Is he forging by himself? Tang San was curious. But forging is not that simple. Dad only has a furnace and a bellows in the village. It's useless to rely on a simple hammer. After completing his mission for the day, Tang San went to the village elder's house to look for Bro Feng. Unexpectedly, Grandpa Jack told him that Bro Feng was not at home. He was wandering outside and would only come back at night with a silly smile. Could it be that Bro Feng is in the small forest? Tang San's heart skipped a beat. He walked toward the small forest outside Wang Village. After walking for some distance, suddenly the ground shook slightly. He listened carefully. Clang, clang, clang. The familiar sound of hammering was heard. Tang San was surprised. Then, he slowly walked toward the source of the sound. Not long after, he saw a familiar figure who was sweating profusely as he waved a hammer and hammered the fixed raw iron. Seeing this, Tang San was stunned. He thought to himself, really, Big Brother Feng, how can he forge like this? Chapter 14. What's this? Tang San looked into the distance in surprise. He saw Big Brother Feng swinging a hammer and hitting a piece of raw iron. Every time the hammer struck the metal, it would cause sparks to fly in all directions. After the hammer hit the raw iron, the rebounding force followed the hammer and made Big Brother Feng spin in a circle. Then, with the rebounding force, he hit the raw iron again. The force was even stronger than the previous strike, and more sparks flew everywhere. Isn't this the technique Dad taught me? Tang Sen looked at Big Brother Feng, who was sweating profusely, in shock. Borrowing the force from hitting the raw iron, he quickly swung the hammer again and hit with a force even stronger than the previous strike. He could quickly refine the raw iron. He could also train himself. Did Dad teach Big Brother Feng this too? No, it seems a little different. Tang Sen stared at Big Brother Feng. The posture is different. Big Brother Feng's posture is completely different from what Dad taught him. It's a little stiff, and Big Brother Feng hasn't come to the blacksmith shop these days. Could it be? Did Big Brother Feng learn this by himself? Clang, the crisp sound continued to ring out. The more Tang Sen looked, the more surprised he was. 6 strikes, 18 strikes, 26 strikes. Tang Sen looked at the piece of iron that had turned red because of the rapid strikes. He was a little surprised. The force of each strike was increasing. Isn't this too strong? Tang Sen murmured. This strength wasn't just limited to the number of times he swung the hammer. It was the technique. He can learn such a brilliant technique by himself by smithing. Big Brother Feng is too smart. Tang Sen was a little impressed. It was as if he had been walking the same path his father had walked. But Big Brother Feng was different. Big Brother Feng created his own path. He walked it himself. He continued to watch for a while. Big Brother Feng is getting stronger and stronger. This is already the 30th strike. Tang Sen thought to himself. That day, Dad swung the hammer 36 times in one breath. He didn't even take a breath. He didn't expect Big Brother Feng to almost do it. Moreover, Big Brother Feng's hammering method seemed to be able to achieve the same effect. However, Big Brother Feng's limit should be around 40 strikes. The more Tang Sen watched, the more impressed he was. Big Brother Feng's physical fitness is really abnormal. He must have become stronger again, right? No, I have to go back and practice more. Also, I have to make my hidden weapons in advance. Thinking of this, Tang Sen hurried over. At this moment, Wang Feng. My posture isn't right. My left shoulder should have moved back by 3 centimeters, and the rebound force should have been less. Due to the excessive tightness in his calf, the transmission of strength is uneven. Even though this hammer strike has increased his strength significantly, it isn't an equal increase. This strike is not up to standard. Clang! One hammer looked down again. The sound was sometimes crisp and sometimes dull. Tang Sen could not see clearly enough. He could only see that the strength of Wang Feng's hammering was indeed increasing. However, no one could tell that Wang Feng's every strike was even smoother, and his control over his strength was even more perfect. If Tang Hao was present, he would have been able to see that Wang Feng was improving at a visible rate. When I swing the hammer, I exceed the bearing surface of the metal by a few centimeters. It's still not up to standard. Wang Feng's mind was rapidly thinking about every strike. Then, he relied on his control over his body to quickly adjust. He continued to perfect it. Since a few days ago, Wang Feng had been using all sorts of postures with only one goal in mind. Until now, he was able to achieve an effect similar to the wild splitting wind hammer technique, but it was still not enough. Fortunately, I have the meteoric tear, so I'm not afraid of injury. As long as I persevere, I can continue to research. That kind of research was very physically taxing and would cause harm to the body. Only Wang Feng, who had the meteoric tear, dared to do that. It was indeed very difficult in the beginning. After 2 full days of hammering, Wang Feng could only rely on his physical strength to force himself to hammer harder and harder. He could not understand how to use force to exert strength, and he could not find any special postures. He was not like Lil San, who had Tang how to teach him step by step. However, in the past 2 days, Wang Feng gradually understood the trick. If I continue to research and change like this, in 2 months, I should be able to create a more complete hammering technique. It might be inferior to the wild, splitting wind hammer technique for the time being, but as long as I continue to research, I might be able to surpass it. Wang Fengxin felt a sense of pride. After all, he was a transmigrator who stood on the shoulders of giants and had a golden finger. If he could not surpass it, he would be too weak. However, this hammering technique is very physically taxing. After 36 hammers, it'll be very difficult for me to persevere. Each hammer will be harder than the previous one, and the difficulty will increase exponentially. When I forge these two pieces into simple protective gear, I should be able to carry about 150 kilograms. When that time comes, the difficulty of the training will greatly increase, and so will the effect. Wang Feng pondered. In the evening, when it was almost dark, finally, Wang Feng's physical strength was exhausted, and he fell to the ground with golden stars in his eyes. The power of the meteoric tear slowly flowed out and cleansed his body. The long-lost power once again emerged. Comfortable, it was as if every cell in his body was cheering, and it made Wang Feng feel extremely comfortable. Needless to say, this method of forging could indeed allow his body to quickly reach its limit. I feel stronger again. Wang Feng exhaled. Now, with my current limit, I should be able to swing 5 or 6 more hammers. If he kept using the same amount of strength, Wang Feng could swing hundreds of hammers without panting. But this kind of hammering was really stronger than the previous one. Dozens of hammers would not be enough. Let's take a rest first and continue tomorrow. Wang Feng returned to the village. Thus, in the next 2 months, Wang Feng had been studying and practicing the hammering technique until his physical fitness was strong enough to swing 64 hammers in one breath. This kind of improvement speed was simply unimaginable. If he didn't have the meteoric tear, he would not be able to achieve it even after several years. In other aspects, the improvement was also significant. For example, if he was in his current state in Shaosan 3 months ago, Wang Feng only needed to use 10% of his strength to completely crush Shaosan. However, Shaosan should have also grown these days, right? It was almost time. Brother Tao, it should be here soon. Wang Feng put on the iron block on his calf and the iron vest. Nearly 200 kilograms of weight. Even an adult man would find it difficult to walk 100 meters with this weight. But Wang Feng jumped lightly, as if he had already adapted to it. Half a month ago, Wang Feng had already secretly forged and tempered this set of weight-bearing protective gear in a blacksmith shop and put it on. Usually, he would take it off when taking a bath. Even when eating or drinking, he would also wear it. He had already adapted to it, because it was distributed in all parts of his body, from his calf, arms, and back. Each part weighed about 50 kilograms and was forged into a simple protective equipment. Because of that, Wang Feng's appearance appeared to be slightly more robust. After everything was ready, Wang Feng slowly walked out of the village. Outside the village, Su Yuntao yawned, his eyes somewhat wandering. These days, Su Yuntao was a little obsessed with the story of Soul breaking the firmament. However, Su Yuntao had finished reading it a month ago, but he only read half of it. Probably when Xiao Yin went to the Misty Clouds sect to fight Xiao Yin, who had already become a soul elder, he finished reading it. Su Yuntao was so anxious that he wanted to come to the Holy Spirit Village to find this kid to read the rest of the story. But thinking about it, how could he, a level 28 battle soul master, casually come to the Holy Spirit Village? Thus, he waited and waited. Finally, the appointed day arrived. Su Yuntao touched his chest and frowned. I was injured a few days ago when I was hunting soul beasts, but it's not a big deal. Later, I can beat this kid down with one hand and make him tell me the rest of the story, right? Yes, I can't hurt him yet. After all, this kid's martial soul is useless. He only has innate, full soul power. I hope he can train a bit these days and not let me hurt him. Chapter 15. When Wang Feng walked out of the village, he saw Su Yuntao. Are you on time? Wang Feng looked at Su Yuntao with a smile. Brother Tao did not change. His expression was still indifferent and his attitude was still arrogant. Looking at Wang Feng, who seemed to be stronger than 3 months ago. Su Yuntao nodded slightly and said calmly, "Kid, you've become stronger in 3 months. Is there more to the story? If you do, I'll go easy on you later." In Su Yuntao's opinion, this 6-year-old kid wanted to fight with him. It was simply ridiculous. He did not understand what a real spirit master was. If not for the story, Su Yuntao would not have agreed to this kid's request, because fighting with this kid was simply like playing house. "Wait, I'll let you know how terrifying your soul shatters the heavens is," Su Yuntao secretly said in his heart. Su Yuntao liked these words very much. He felt that it was full of momentum. "Oh," Wang Feng looked at him with surprise. "If you defeat me, you'll have it. If you don't defeat me or reach a draw, there will be no more story." "Then what are we waiting for? My time is limited." Su Yuntao put his hands behind his back and said indifferently. After saying that, he walked towards the distance. They naturally could not fight at the entrance of the village. Wang Feng followed. Not long after, the two came to an open space. "Kid, do you want to use a weapon?" Su Yuntao said indifferently. "I suggest you use a weapon. As for me, I'll be barehanded." Su Yuntao really felt that using one hand was too much for a kid with innate full soul power. "No need," Wang Feng said with a smile. "All right, let's start. I'll let you make the first move," Su Yuntao said with a proud face. Shua. Just as he finished speaking, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Wang Feng suddenly ran towards Su Yuntao. His speed was very fast. Su Yuntao was slightly startled. He did not expect this kid to be so fast. He had been training for the past 3 months. Wang Feng arrived in front of Su Yuntao in a few blinks of an eye. His entire body tilted slightly, as if he was gathering his strength. His aura suddenly changed. His right hand clenched into a fist, and with a slight sonic boom, his fist smashed into Su Yuntao's lower abdomen. The speed of this punch was extremely fast. Su Yuntao held the thought of letting the opponent go first and did not intend to resist. With his physique, after all these years of training, a punch from a mere 6-year-old kid. Su Yuntao, what was there to be afraid of? However, at the next moment, his face changed. His entire body was smashed into the shape of a U by this punch. Su Yuntao's eyeballs were about to pop out. An intense pain came from his abdomen, making him feel as if he had been directly smashed by a 200-pound hammer. His eyes were filled with shock. With a single punch, Su Yuntao was sent flying 10 meters away. Fortunately, Su Yuntao managed to adjust his body mid-air and barely managed to stop himself from falling to the ground. Instead, he supported himself with one hand on the ground. Su Yuntao spat out a mouthful of sour water. He struggled to stand up and looked at the little ghost. His mind was filled with question marks. Was this the power of a 6-year-old child? Su Yuntao was incomparably shocked. His physical fitness was already so strong. "I've underestimated you, kid." Su Yuntao took a deep breath. Just now, he did not circulate his soul power. He only relied on his physique to withstand the punch. Even the acid water came out of his body. It was a bit unbearable. In addition, he was caught off guard. Again, Su Yuntao's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. After knowing that this little imp's strength was very strong, Su Yuntao no longer had any contempt in his heart. After saying that, Su Yuntao circulated his soul power and kicked Wang Feng. His whole body seemed to be drifting as he kicked Wang Feng to the side. The powerful force also brought about a real whistling wind. The speed of this kick was extremely fast. Wang Feng did not dodge, but directly raised his palm as if he wanted to block it. "Oh no, I seem to have used too much strength," Su Yuntao thought. Just as he was thinking, the kick landed on his opponent's palm. In a split second, a numbing feeling rushed to the sole of his foot and spread throughout his body. As for the little ghost, he was still standing on the spot and had directly used his palm to block the kick. In the next moment, Wang Feng grabbed the kick and recalled the way he used the hammer to hit the iron block. After the rebound, he used Su Yuntao's foot as a hammer and threw it out. This throw was incomparably powerful. Su Yuntao spun several hundred degrees in the air before slowly stabilizing. Finally, Su Yuntao stabilized himself and landed on a tree branch. What was that move just now? Su Yuntao was somewhat surprised. His strength seemed to have been completely neutralized. In fact, his opponent even used an even stronger force to throw him out. In the dark, two figures, one big and one small, were watching the battle at the same time. This time, Tang Hao's gaze focused. He said in a low voice, "Lil 3, you taught Feng, kid, the smithing technique I taught you." He was one of the most powerful people on the continent. Tang Hao had seen Feng Lin's move very clearly. That was the wild wind hammer technique. He had even perfectly used it in battle. However, there were some differences. It was very different from his wild wind hammer technique. The method of channeling strength was also very different. However, the technique was similar. "No, Dad." Tang San shook his head. Then he told Tang Hao what he saw 2 months ago when Bro Feng was smithing. Tang Hao was shocked when he heard that. "This Feng, kid." Tang Hao looked at Wang Feng incredulously. "Self-taught?" "Self-taught, the core technique of the wild wind hammer technique?" If Tang Hao had not watched Feng kid grow up with his own eyes, he would have suspected that the kid was a lost disciple of the heavenly sect. This thing, if it was some old monster who had lived for a long time, perhaps they could learn it by themselves? You're telling me that a 6-year-old brat only used less than 3 months to comprehend the wild hammering technique on his own, and even perfectly apply it in actual combat? Tang Hao did not quite believe it. However, the facts in front of his eyes and his son's account made Tang Hao believe it. This Feng kid is a true prodigy. Tang Hao could only shake his head. Tang Sen also nodded. Bro Feng did give him the impression that he was smart and insightful. It was not something a 6-year-old kid could have. Tang Sen even suspected that Bro Feng was a transmigrator like him. However, Tang Sen still shook his head when he thought about Bro Feng's lackadaisical behavior in the past few years. Perhaps he's a true prodigy? "Dad, can Bro Feng defeat Grandmaster Su?" Tang Sen asked curiously. He thought about the hidden weapons and sleeve arrows that he had been smithing over the past few days. If Su Yuntao did not use his martial soul, he should be able to defeat him. However, it was not possible for him to defeat Su Yuntao openly. The difference in every aspect was too great. Tang Hao shook his head slightly. "It's very difficult, Lil San. You should know that no technique can be used when one's strength is at its peak. If Su Yuntao's martial soul is the lone wolf, his strength, speed, and other aspects will increase greatly after possessing his body. It'll be too easy for him to defeat a 6-year-old kid. Bro Feng's speed and strength are quite different from his. Moreover, he doesn't have a soul ring. He can't use the power of his martial soul. Su Yuntao also has a soul skill. If I'm not mistaken, Bro Feng will be beaten up after Su Yuntao possesses his martial soul. However, this is already very good. It's very rare for a 6-year-old kid to be able to force Su Yuntao to use his martial soul." Tang Sen also nodded. His father was thinking about the same thing. As expected, Su Yuntao's repeated attacks were all neutralized by Wang Feng's technique of leveraging his opponent's strength. He was furious. He was a 28-year-old master, yet he was able to fight back and forth with a 6-year-old child. That was too embarrassing. "You're very powerful, kid." As expected of the full, innate soul power. After Su Yuntao was thrown out again, he took a deep breath and stood calmly on the spot. The next moment, roar! 2 soul rings suddenly rose from his body. A ferocious and terrifying giant wolf appeared behind Su Yuntao. "Lone wolf. Possess." Su Yuntao let out a low growl. Shortly after, a powerful aura erupted from his body. In the next moment, Su Yuntao attacked Wang Feng again. His speed was extremely fast. His speed was almost like a phantom. It was the same kick, but this time, Wang Feng couldn't react in time. Bang! With one kick, Wang Feng was kicked several meters away. As expected, after possessing his martial soul, Brother Tao's strength has increased by at least 1 level. His physical fitness has greatly increased. Wang Feng stood up However, Brother Tao seems to be injured. After all, Su Yuntao was a 26-year-old grandmaster. He was only 6 years old. If he only used his physical fitness, he wouldn't be his opponent and would be crushed, unless he used part of his energy. However, Wang Feng didn't want to do that. Wait! Wang Feng suddenly raised his hand. What? You admit defeat? Su Yuntao frowned. Nope. Wang Feng shook his head. Then he took off his clothes and undid the iron protective gear on his body. He smiled and said, I'll take off something. After saying that, Wang Feng took off the iron vest on his body, as well as the protective gear on his arms and calves. Then, he threw them on the ground. Dong! Close to 200 jin of iron fell on the ground, causing the ground to tremble slightly. It made an extremely dull sound. Seeing this, Su Yuntao, Tang Hao, Tang San. Chapter 16. A muffled sound could be heard from the ground. Sparks could be seen when the metal equipment collided with the rock. The three people were dumbfounded. These metal equipment must weigh at least 1 or 200 caddies, right? Tang Sen looked at Feng Yuntao, who had become slightly smaller. Tang Sen had been smithing for the past 3 months, so he could easily estimate the weight of the metal equipment. He thought that Feng Yuntao had put on weight in the past few months. He did not expect that he would be wearing such heavy metal equipment. In other words, Feng Yuntao was wearing 200 caddies of metal equipment when he fought against a level 26 Soul Grandmaster. He was not at a disadvantage. He won by a hair's breadth. He forced Grandmaster Su Yuntao to use his martial soul, Tang San. So it turns out that this brat was here with me. Later on, he took away more raw iron one after another. Was it to forge an iron protective gear for himself? Tang Hao rubbed his head. Feng Yuntao is quite arrogant. He's wearing metal equipment to fight against a Soul Grandmaster. He's so young, but he's wearing metal equipment that's at least 3 times heavier than him. Want to harm his body? Tang Hao furrowed his brows as he thought. Any kind of exercise had side effects. If Lin Feng were to exercise as if he didn't care about his life, it would probably cause a huge burden and damage to his body. What a mess. Tang Hao shook his head. However, no matter what Tang Hao thought, he did not know that Wang Fengxin had the meteoric tear in his body, which could continuously heal the damage caused by excessive training. Wang Feng would not have dared to do that without the meteoric tear. You brat. Su Yuntao stared at Wang Feng with an unsightly expression. This kid is wearing at least 200 caddies of metal equipment. He fought me back and forth, and now he wants me to use my martial soul? Is he really a 6-year-old kid? That metal equipment is at least 2 or 3 times heavier than mine, right? Is he an ant? The corners of Su Yuntao's mouth twitched violently. I didn't expect that kid to be hiding his strength. I'm here, Grandmaster Su. Wang Feng exhaled and jumped 2 steps on the spot. He had worn 200 caddies of metal equipment for almost 2 months, and he had gotten used to the weight. Now that he had taken it off, he felt as if the whole world was as light as a feather. In the future, I'll have to slowly increase the weight. This feeling is even better. Wang Fengxin pondered. Su Yuntao did not speak. His body directly turned into an afterimage, rushing towards Wang Feng. The whistling wind seemed to be able to tear the leaves apart. But this time, Wang Feng smiled faintly. With a light tap of his foot, he dodged the kick. Although it wasn't as fast as a bullet, Wang Feng could clearly see the trajectory of Su Yuntao's speed. Eat my Foshan shadowless kick. Wang Feng yelled and kicked Su Yuntao's body as he leaned to the side. His speed was extremely fast, not much inferior to Su Yuntao's current speed. Bang! At the critical moment, Su Yuntao's lone wolf martial spirit appeared, and a blue light appeared on Su Yuntao's body. Soul skill Diamondback. Su Yuntao shouted in a low voice. He bent his waist, and a layer of faint blue light appeared on his back. Dong! Wang Feng's kick landed on the layer of blue light, causing ripples to appear on the surface. This kick had no effect at all. On the contrary, Wang Feng felt a dull pain on the back of his foot. He couldn't help but think, this is a soul skill? In the original Douluo continent, there was no detailed introduction of Su Yuntao's soul skill, so Wang Feng naturally didn't know about it. But at this time, Brother Tao, who was only a tool in the original story, actually had a soul skill. Sure enough, once a soul skill is used, it's extraordinary. Brother Tao's back seems to be covered with a layer of steel. It's very painful. Wang Fengxin pondered. Next, soul skill. Spiritual speed. Su Yuntao shouted again. Ayo, faintly a lone wolf howled. Su Yuntao's legs bent slightly, becoming more flexible. A layer of faint white energy, fur appeared on his legs. Shua. Su Yuntao's silhouette moved. This was a real illusion. His speed increased. Almost in a flash, he appeared behind Wang Feng, so fast that Wang Feng couldn't even react. Little Feng is going to lose, Tang Hao said lazily. That kid is indeed powerful. He's not at a disadvantage even with Su Yuntao's martial spirit possession in terms of physical fitness. However, soul skills aren't simple moves. They're the key to increasing a soul master's strength. Although these two soul skills are ordinary and Su Yuntao is injured, Little Feng won't be able to resist them. Tang Sen nodded and thought, but this is already very powerful. If it were me, Grandmaster Su Yuntao would be able to easily defeat me without martial soul possession. Not to mention the fact that he could use soul skills after being possessed by his martial soul. However, in that split second, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Wang Feng's palm flashed slightly, and a golden lotus quietly bloomed. He covered it with his body. Let me test it. Wang Fengxin knew that Su Yuntao's strength was beyond his imagination. Even if he could rely on his physical strength, it would be difficult for him to defeat Su Yuntao with a soul skill. This move was unavoidable, but a trace of faint golden energy instantly entered Su Yuntao's body. Wang Feng immediately withdrew the golden lotus. Suddenly, Su Yuntao's foot brought with it a sharp gust of wind and stopped a few inches behind Wang Feng's back. He stopped. Su Yuntao actually stopped abruptly. Then his face flushed red. The lone wolf martial soul suddenly appeared behind him. His entire body seemed to be covered in a layer of faint golden light. Su Yuntao seemed to be unable to hold it in and suddenly moaned. That moan sounded as though he could not hold it in any longer and was about to come out. Tang Hao. Tang San. Su Yuntao felt that his entire body was about to explode. He did not know what was going on. Then, the chi aura on his body suddenly became purer. Did he break through? Tang Hao stood up and said in surprise. His soul power seems to have increased by 1 level. Why at this time? It's also a little strange. It was indeed very strange. Tang Hao looked at Su Yuntao and felt that it was a little strange. At this moment, Su Yuntao was supporting himself on the ground with both hands. He was somewhat excited and trembling. Could it be a hidden characteristic of the lone wolf, martial soul? Tang Hao felt that it was a little strange. When one's soul power increased, would it go in a heat? Suddenly, Tang Hao's gaze fell on Wang Feng's body. In that instant, he vaguely felt a strange force on Wang Feng's body. Tang San and Su Yuntao did not notice it, but Tang Hao could sense it. Could it be that kid's doing? His martial soul? If that's the case, then Wang Feng's martial soul is quite extraordinary. Tang Hao shook his head. Forget it. That's Wang Feng's own ability. I don't need to interfere. Meanwhile, Wang Fengxin was very surprised. The first form of the Golden Lotus can not only recover and heal, but it can also increase other people's soul power. It can even urge them to do that thing. You're still talking about it. Has this dog been single for too long? Can't hold it in anymore? However, using the Golden Lotus consumed a lot of soul power. That trace of soul power earlier had depleted half of Wang Feng's soul power. He should not use it recklessly. Chapter 17. Wang Feng was only using it as an experiment. As Wang Feng looked at Su Yuntao and saw the changes in him, he gave the first form of the Golden Lotus a higher rating. After a few minutes, Su Yuntao slowly stood up and coughed a few times, trying to relieve his embarrassment. A smile appeared on his face. Ha! I didn't think I could break through and increase my soul power at this time. I didn't fight in vain. Little brat, let's call it a draw. Su Yuntao thought his soul power had increased because he went all out in the fight. He didn't suspect Wang Feng. He didn't expect it at all. After saying the word draw, Su Yuntao felt a bit embarrassed. He was a soul grandmaster, but he had to use his martial soul and soul skills to barely defeat this brat. Otherwise, he would have been beaten to the ground by this brat. It was embarrassing just thinking about it. As expected of the innate full soul power. Even if his martial soul is useless, his soul power is real. This brat must have trained very hard these days. Su Yuntao thought. After all, it was very strenuous for me to carry 200 kilograms of iron. I still have to praise him. With this thought in mind, Su Yuntao walked over and patted Wang Feng on the shoulder. A faint smile appeared on his cold face. Little brat, you can fight a soul grandmaster to a draw when you're only 6 years old. You should be proud. Even if your martial soul is useless, you might become a strong person if you continue like this. Wang Feng. Seeing Su Yuntao's confident smile, Wang Feng felt he had achieved his goal. He pretended to be pleasantly surprised. Is that so? Master Su, I thought that you didn't want to hurt me because you saw that I lost just now. Wang Feng's goal in fighting Su Yuntao wasn't to defeat him. He only wanted to test his strength and develop the ability to use the Golden Lotus. He also wanted to know the specific effects of the Golden Lotus in a battle between soul masters. After all, the little bird that day was just an ordinary animal. Soul masters were humans. Cough, cough. Do your best. Su Yuntao's expression became even more awkward. I'll go back first. Oh, right. The next time we meet, you must tell me the story of soul shattering the firmament. No problem, Wang Feng said with a smile. After Su Yuntao finished speaking, he left in a hurry. After this battle, he felt that his soul power had increased by 1 rank. Furthermore, the injury on his chest seemed to have recovered. It was just that the increase was a little strange, but it was more of a pleasant surprise. Wang Feng secretly laughed a few times. Brother Tao has already been completely used by me, and the quality of my body should be about the same as Brother Tao's martial soul possession, equivalent to a soul grandmaster. If I use my 10th rank soul power, I shouldn't fear a soul grandmaster. Even if I can't win, I won't lose. On the contrary, the effect of the first form of the Golden Lotus is far beyond my imagination. Wang Fengxin sighed. It could heal, restore, and even increase the rank of one's soul power. There was also a strange ability. It could be used in both directions. Just like just now, if Su Yuntao had made a move while he was enjoying himself, Su Yuntao would have definitely lost. It could be said that he was terrifyingly strong. And this was only the ability that came with the Golden Lotus itself. In just 4 months, for a former salted fish like me, I've already finished more than 20 years of Brother Tao's journey. It's enough. Wang Feng picked up the iron protective equipment on the ground. Next, I should leave the Holy Soul Village and go to the Elementary Soul Master Academy in Nodding City. After all, rice has to be eaten mouthful by mouthful, acting tough step by step. If the steps are too big, it's easy to pull the balls. While thinking, Wang Feng returned to the Holy Soul Village. 2 days later, Wang Feng and Tang San came to the center of the village, carrying a small bag. Today was the day to go to Nodding City. Behind them stood many villagers of the Holy Soul Village. Little Feng, when you go to Nodding City, don't forget us, okay? My family's little Chui is still waiting for you. An Annie waved at Wang Feng. Wang Feng was speechless, looking at the swaddling child in the auntie's arms. Little Feng, when you go to Nodding City, remember to come home often. Our village is your home. An uncle came over, holding a basket of fruits, and handed it to Wang Feng and Tang San. Okay, Uncle Li. Wang Feng waved his hand. This is not a long trip. It's half a day's journey to Nodding City. Don't make it sound like I'm going somewhere far away. In the past 2 years, the village had developed vigorously, and Wang Feng had contributed a lot. Although it was just an idea, most of the villagers were very grateful to Wang Feng. Usually, they were very enthusiastic to invite Wang Feng to eat from door to door. 3 months ago, after the martial soul awakening, a small banquet was held especially for Wang Feng and Tang San. However, Wang Feng found it troublesome and directly refused. You child, you're always like this. You children are going on a long trip to Nodding City. Do you have any relatives or friends? You and Tang San have to take care of each other, but don't let others look down on our Holy Soul Village. A woman came forward and reprimanded a few times. Got it, Aunt May. Wang Feng laughed a few times. Brother Feng, when you become a soul master, you have to come back to see us. To be honest, in the past few years, the people in the village had a good relationship with him. It was just that he was usually lazy. Although there were many invitations, Wang Feng rarely visited. Most of the time, he was alone and thinking nonsense. Tang Sin stood to the side and looked at Brother Feng enviously. Brother Feng was amazing. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to do it. Most of these aunties and uncles came to see Brother Feng off. Yes, they also came along. Not long after, old Jack hurried over. Little Feng, little San, let's go. Old Jack said with a somewhat serious expression. Tang Sin nodded. Wait, Wang Feng suddenly shouted. Little Feng, is there anything else? Old Jack asked. Wang Feng laughed twice and suddenly walked to the stone pillar in the center with the soul sage's handprint. Everyone was a little puzzled, not knowing what this kid wanted to do. They saw Wang Feng jump high, move to the top of the stone pillar, and then directly slap on it. Bang! A handprint clearly appeared on the stone pillar. Wang Feng landed steadily on the ground and said seriously, All right, that's enough. In the future, our Holy Soul Village will not only have soul sages. It will also have a titled Douluo. After saying that, Wang Feng walked in front of Tang San and said, Little San, you also go and press 1 as a mark. Maybe when we become titled Douluo one day, this will be a holy land for tens of thousands of people to worship. The fee will naturally be higher. Tang San was speechless. Brother Feng, you're really thick-skinned. You're not even a soul master. Titled Dalu, do you know what a titled Dalu is? A little boy behind him said with a smile. Wang Feng glared at the little boy and said, What do you know? The little boy. Old Jack was so embarrassed that his face turned red. He glared at Wang Feng and pulled Wang Feng out of the village. Under the gentle sunlight, the shadows of the 3 people were elongated. Everyone took a look at the small handprint, and a trace of amusement appeared on their faces. In the blacksmith shop in the distance, Tang Hao also looked at the small handprint and laughed softly. This Feng kid is quite ambitious. Titled, but even if he becomes a titled Dalu, what can he do? In the end, you can't even protect the person you love. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.